Hello all, welcome. My name is Kastro Kiran. As a part of the real-time projects, in this video, we are going to see how to deploy a three-tier architecture by using the different AWS services that are available. As a part of this project, we are going to use the different services that are available. But before talking about what are the services that I am going to use in order to do this particular project, I would like to let you know that what is meant by a three-tier architecture in a nutshell. Usually, three-tier means three layers. For any applications that are running in the real-time scenarios, they will be having three different layers before deploying the application into the servers. The three layers that are available for any project are: the first one is called as web layer, the second one is called as app layer, and the third one is a database layer. Web layer consists of the front end of the application. App layer consists of the application code. App layer is also called as business logic layer, and database layer consists of database where we can store and retrieve the data from the database. These are the three different layers that will be available in a three-tier architecture, and this is the same thing that we are going to do as a part of this project. In this project, I'm not going to use any of the DevOps tools. Purely by using the services that are available in AWS, I am going to show you how to deploy a three-tier architecture by using the AWS services. Let me list out what are the AWS services that I am going to use in this project. Firstly, we are going to use VPC, where I am going to create the custom network for our project. Usually in real-time scenarios, we don't use the default VPC. We will create our own VPC, and in that VPC, we are going to configure subnets, route tables, NAT gateways, internet gateways, and a couple of other things as well. This is the first service that I am going to use. And the second service that I am going to use is EC2 service, where I am going to use in order to launch the instances in our custom network, not in the default network. And whatever the instances that we are going to use for our web layer, app layer, and the database layer, I am going to launch all these instances by using the custom VPC network that we are going to create. The next service that I am going to use is known as IAM. In this IAM, we are going to create a role where we are going to give a specific permissions in order to launch our EC2 instances, and these EC2 instances will be attached to the IAM role, which has the specific set of permissions. The next service that I am going to use is the S3 service, where we are going to create an S3 bucket. Inside the S3 bucket, I am going to store the application code. The reason why I am going to store the application code inside the S3 bucket is it is a complex task to store the complete code inside the EC2 instances. So I am going to take the help of S3 bucket, and that S3 bucket I am going to configure in the EC2 instances. More details about how I am going to configure S3 in the EC2, we will see it in some time as this project progresses. The next service that I am going to use is RDS, which is used to create the databases. For our project, the backend must be consisting of the database. So here I am going to use MySQL database in order to store the data that is coming from the application. And the last service that I am going to use is known as Certificate Manager. There is also one more service that I am going to use, which is called as Route 53. By using Route 53, I am going to map the internal load balancer DNS name to the Route 53 custom domain. Usually in real-time scenarios, we don't give the public IP of the EC2 instances for the outsiders to access the application. So we also don't give the DNS name of the application load balancers that we are going to create. So instead, what we do in real-time scenarios is we will give the custom domain, and this custom domain, when it is accessed by the public, they will be able to see the application. So this project will also be consisting of how to use Route 53, how to register a custom domain in the Route 53. This registering part of the custom domain will be charging you at least some 1400 to 1500 rupees will be charged for you. So these are the different services that we are going to use as a part of this project. Now, before we go and implement the project, let me show you the architecture that I am going to follow as a part of this project. So here you can see the outer layer is the VPC, which is the custom VPC network that I am going to create. As I was mentioning, this project consists of web layer, app layer, and the database layer. In web layer, we have the public subnets. In public subnets, again, we have the EC2 instances. Let us talk about this in some time. Now, first I'll create a VPC and whatever the resources that I need, that is subnets, public subnets, private subnets, route tables, internet gateway, NAT gateway, all of these things we are going to create. Now, the reason why I have selected two availability zones, you can see here AZ1 and AZ2. This is because we need to maintain the application for high availability and fault tolerance. The reason why I have spread my resources across AZ1 and AZ2 is even if the resources that are in AZ1 gets failed, I don't want the end users to face any difficulty to access my application. So that is the reason why I am also going to spread my resources across the different availability zones in my VPC network. So that's the reason why I am using two availability zones. If you want to give much higher availability to your application, you can also spread your resources across multiple availability zones based on the region that you are going to create. In this project, I am going to use Mumbai region throughout the project, and that's the same region that I am going to use. Suppose if you want to use any other regions also, you can use, but make sure the region whichever you have selected should have at least two availability zones, because in our case, I am going to spread the resources across two availability zones, AZ1 and AZ2. Right. Coming to the web tier, which is actually the front end of the application. The front end of the application, I am going to keep it in the public subnet. The reason why I am going to keep the front end of the application in the public subnet is when end users wants to access the application, they should be able to access the application. So that's the reason why I'm going to keep web tier in the public subnet where the end users can access the application. And coming to the app tier instances, I am going to keep it in the private subnet. The reason why I am keeping the app tier instances in the private subnet is app tier consists of the logic, that is business logic, which actually means the code of the application. Whatever code that is required to run our application, I am going to store that code into the app tier. So usually, whenever you store the code in the EC2 instances, you will never generally expose those instances to the public. So that's the reason why I'm going to keep the app tier inside the private subnets. And also the database. Usually the database will keep it in the private subnet. The main reason is we don't give the outsiders to access our databases. So that's the reason why I'm going to keep the private database that we are going to create in the private subnet. Apart from these, I have said that we need to maintain high availability for the application and also the fault tolerance. So since if any of the availability zone gets failed, I need my instances to be up and running in the other availability zone. That's actually the maintenance of fault tolerance. Now, what does it mean by high availability? Suppose let's say AZ1 has got failed due to some issues. Now, the end user should not face any problem in accessing the application. So my application should be available at any given point of time. So for that reason, what I am going to use is I am going to use the load balancers. Based upon the traffic, I am going to monitor the CPU utilization capacity, and then I'll be maintaining the EC2 instances to be up and running. So we know what actually the work of load balancer. Load balancer will distribute the traffic among the resources that are available. As a part of this project, we are going to create two types of load balancers. The first one is called as internal load balancer, and the second one is called as external load balancer. The external load balancer will be attached to the web tier, that is the instances that are available in the public subnet. Whereas the internal load balancer, I am going to attach to the instances which are available in the private subnet, that is the app tier. So the reason why I am creating external load balancer and the internal load balancer is In the private subnets, I have my instances running across two availability zones. So if by any chance one of the EC2 instance gets failed, automatically a new instance should get created. So that is the reason why I am attaching the load balancer. Based upon the load balancer health check performance, automatically it is going to create the new instances if the health check of any of the instances is not good. Similarly, the external load balancer also performs the same thing. External load balancer, we are going to attach it to the internet gateway. The reason why I am attaching internet gateway to the external load balancer is because the outside public wants to access the application which is available in the web tier. So that's the reason why I am going to attach the internet gateway to the external load balancer. Apart from that, we will also create the NAT gateway also. I'll let you know where and when to create the NAT gateway and how it is going to helpful for us. One important thing I would like to let you know as part of this project is the database tier. In the database tier, if you want to maintain high availability for your application, usually we will select the databases as multi-availability zones or multi-AZ. That means our databases should spread across different availability zones. In this project, I am going to use the free tier based RDS instance so that you will not be charged anything when you are practicing also. But if you want high availability to your RDS also, you can select high availability or high AZ for your RDS in the process of creating the RDS. That also I am going to show you, but in this project, I am going to keep myself in the free tier limits so that when you are practicing also, you won't face any kind of billing problems during the application development or during the deployment of application into the three-tier project. So I hope you now understood what actually that we are going to do in this project. So we need to create multiple resources. So it will be very lengthy project. So first I'll show you how to create different resources, and then I'm going to integrate one resource with another resource. I'm going to connect the load balancers with EC2 instances, internet gateway to the EC2 instances, and internet gateway to multiple availability zones. All these things we are going to see. So please follow this lecture till the end so that you will get a complete idea about what actually we are going to do. And this is purely a real-time project, how we are going to deploy the applications by using the three-tier architecture, especially by using the AWS services. Now let's go to the AWS cloud, where we are going to create the resources and we are going to deploy our application, and finally we are going to access our application. This is the repository which I am going to use to deploy our application. So I will be giving the repository link for this project in the description of this video. You can also have a look into this repository because the code is available in this repository. Now, whenever you want to have this particular repository, I would request you to fork this repository, and also if possible, you can start the repository as well so that it will be helpful for me and also for you. When you fork the repository, if I do any changes in the application code in future, all those changes will also be replicated to you. So that's the reason why I'm requesting you to fork the repository. Right. So in this repository, we have the application code folder. Inside this application code folder, we have the app tier related application code, web tier related application code, and Nginx related some configuration also. We will see how to work with all of these things one by one as we progress further. Now, let me explain you what are the different steps that we are going to use in order to set up the project infrastructure. So firstly, we are going to create the VPC, which acts as the foundation for our project structure. And then we are going to create the S3 bucket and the IAM role for the appropriate code deployment into the servers. And then we are going to create the database, and then we are going to create the resources which are required for the application tier. And similarly, we are going to create the resources for web tier setup. And finally, we are going to create the certificates, that is SSL certificates. And then we are going to map the domain using Route 53 custom domain. So these are the 6 steps that we are going to follow as a part of this project. So firstly, let us go and create the VPC. If you observe our architecture, we can see there is a custom VPC. Inside custom VPC, how many subnets are there? We have 2 public subnets and 4 private subnets are there. 2 public subnets are used for web tier, 2 private subnets are used for app tier, and 2 other private subnets are used for a database tier. So a total of 6 subnets are there in this project, and also out of 6, 2 of them are public subnets which gets an internet connectivity, and 4 of them are the private subnets which doesn't get the internet connectivity directly. So we will see how to work with this one. So first let us go to the VPC service in the AWS cloud. So you can just see the search bar on the top, just type VPC on the top and click on VPC, and here we are going to create the VPC. If you see on the top right side, I am currently there in the Mumbai region, which is AP-South-1. Right. Whatever resources that I am going to create, all those resources I'll be creating in the Mumbai region throughout this project. So please keep an eye on this one also when you are practicing. Right. Now let's create the VPC here. Now in order to create the VPC, just click on create VPC here. If you want to create only VPC, you can create the VPC and then you can create the subnets and all of those things. But I would like to create all of them at once itself. So I'm going to select VPC and more. Now when you select VPC and more, you can see you will get a VPC, you will get the subnets, you will get the default route tables, and you will also get the networking connections as well. So I am going to do in this way. If you want, you can also select VPC only. You can first create the VPC and then you can create the subnets and follow the process as we said. Right. So let me select VPC and more. So here I am going to give the VPC name as demo-VPC. You can give any name to your VPC, but this is the name that I am preferring to give. And then the IPv4 CIDR range for our project is 192.168.0.0/22. So I'm going to get 1024 IP addresses to utilize for the project. Though this project is not being utilized these many IP addresses, but I'm just choosing this as my IPv4 CIDR block. And then we don't need any IPv6 CIDR block. So I'm just selecting no IPv6 here. And the tenancy is default, but if you have a dedicated tenancy, you will be charged for that. So let us go with the default tenancy. And how many availability zones we do have in our project? We have 2 availability zones, AZ1 and AZ2. So let me select 2 availability zones. If you want more, you can also select more, right? And how many public subnets we need? You can see for a web tier, we need 2 public subnets. So do we have any other public subnets? No. So let us select 2 public subnets here. So I'm just selecting the public subnets as 2. And how many private subnets we need? We need actually 4 private subnets. 2 private subnets for app tier and 2 private subnets for database tier. So let me select 4 private subnets here. And then the NAT gateway. So how many NAT gateways we need? We actually need only 1 NAT gateway because I need NAT gateway in 1 availability zone only. So I'll be selecting NAT gateway as 1 availability zone. So whatever resources running in the private subnets, those resources need internet connectivity because we need to download and install some packages, right? So for that reason, I'm going to select the NAT gateway. And then do we need any VPC endpoints? It's not required. If you want to utilize S3 service as a VPC endpoint, you can use S3 gateway. But in this project, I'm not going to use any endpoint. So I'm just selecting none. And then click on create VPC. So with this, the VPC will get created. Along with the VPC, you can see the subnets are getting created and default route tables are also getting created. And a couple of other resources also will get created. Once this VPC network gets created, then we need to customize the subnets, that is public subnets, private subnets, all those things. Let us see how to customize those things in some time. Let the VPC get created. So you can see the VPC has got created. If you scroll down, you can see view VPC. So click on view VPC, and this is the VPC that we have just created. So now what we will do is we need to edit the subnet names. So by default, you will be getting the subnet name. So I'm going to edit them so that it will be useful for us when we are practicing. So I'm just going to the VP subnets. So click on subnets. Before going that, let me check the name here. So here it is given as demo VPC-VPC. So I'm just giving it as a demo VPC only. So any name can be given to the VPC. That's not a problem. Right. So click on subnets here. In the subnets, if you just reload the page, you will be getting the rest of the subnets as well. Now here you can see subnet private subnet 1, private subnet 3, private subnet 4, public subnet 1, private subnet 2, public subnet 2. So how many public subnets we have? We have two public subnets, public 1, public 2. How many private subnets we have? Private 1, private 2, private 3, and private 4, right? So the two public subnets, whichever are there here, these two public subnets I will use for web layer. Okay, these two public subnets. If you see the architecture diagram, two public subnets are there. So these two public subnets, I'm going to use it for what? Web layer, that is web type, right? The other two private subnets are there. These two private subnets, I'm going to use it for app layer. So let me rename the private subnet 1 and private subnet 2 for app layer. So here I'm going to select a private subnet 1. You can see subnet hyphen private hyphen 1. So I'm going to change the name of the private subnet as private 1 subnet as what I'll do is demo hyphen VPC hyphen subnet hyphen private 1 hyphen AP hyphen south hyphen 1. This is the name. So this subnet name, I am going to change it to demo VPC private 1. Okay, demo VPC private 1. So this is the thing that I am going to do. Okay, this is the thing that I am going to do. So demo VPC subnet. This subnet I am going to use for which layer? App layer. So I'll keep it as app 1. I'm going to keep it as app 1 because I'm going to use it for app subnet. So app 1. App 1 represents the subnet in 1A availability zone. Right. So click on save. Now, similarly, private subnet 2 is there, right? So click on private subnet 2 and here demo VPC subnet instead of private 2, I'll give it as app 2. App 2. Why I'm giving it as app 2? Because this will be there in the 1B availability zone. So two availability zones are there, right? So in each availability zone, we need to have a subnet. If you see the architecture diagram, in each availability zone, AZ1 and AZ2, we have private subnet 1 and private subnet 2. These two private subnets belongs to which layer? App layer. So that's why I have named it to app 1 and app 2. And then we have the other two subnets, that is private 3 and private 4. So these two subnets, I'm going to use it for database. Okay, these two subnets, I'm going to use it for database. So I'm going to keep it as DB1 and DB2. Okay, DB1. So DB1 represents DB1 subnet for 1A availability zone. Similarly, private subnet 4. This also I'm going to change it to DB2. Okay, DB2. That is second subnet for the database. Currently, we have successfully renamed the subnets as per our requirement. This one, public 1 and public 2. These subnets, I am going to use it for the web layer because we need internet connectivity for them. And then we have two private subnets also, that is app 1 and app 2. These two private subnets, I am going to use it for the application layer or app tier. And then we have other two private subnets, which I am going to use it for the database. Okay, which I am going to use it for the database. Right. Now, let's create security groups also. So if you scroll down to the bottom, you can see under security tag, you can see an option called security groups. So click on security groups here. So currently, how many security groups we are going to create is, we are going to create 5 security groups. Why 5? One for web servers, one for web internet facing load balancer. Let me show you that. One for web servers, one for web internet facing load balancer, that is external load balancer. Another one for app servers, another one for database servers. Okay, another one for database servers. So one for web servers, one for web internet facing load balancer, and another one for app servers, and another one for internal load balancer, and the last one is for the database. So these are the 5 subnet groups, 5 security groups that we are going to create. So let us create the security groups. Currently, we have the 2 default security groups. So I'm not going to use the default security groups because we need to open the required ports only. So for that reason, we are creating the security groups. So let me click on create security group. So here I'm going to give the security group name. So first, let's say I'll create the security group for application load balancer, which is an external load balancer. So for this one, I'm going to create the security group. For external load balancer, I'm creating the security group. So what is the name that I'm going to give? I'll be giving it as web app ALB or web app security group or web ALB, you can say. Web application load balancer security group. web ALB SG. And then description also you can give the same thing. And VPC, in which VPC I need to create the security group in the custom VPC. So select the custom VPC, and here we need to allow our required traffic only. So click on add rules. In the inbound rules, click on add rules. In the add rules, I'm going to select the type as HTTP traffic. Okay, I'm going to select the type as HTTP traffic. Protocol is TCP, port range is 80, and source type, I'm going to keep it as anywhere IPv4. So what is the reason why I'm keeping it as anywhere IPv4? Because this is an external load balancer security group. Okay, web load balancer security group. Web tier is exposed to the outside. So that's why I'm going to open it to anybody. I'm going to open it to anybody. That's why I keep it as source as anywhere, right? And then click on create security group. So this is the security group that we have created for the web application load balancer, which is external load balancer. Now let's create one more security group. This security group I'm going to create for the web tier. Web tier. You can see this one, web tier. So let's create a security group for web tier. So now I'll give the name as web-sg. Web-sg. And the description also I'm going to give the same description. VPC, for which VPC I want to create demo VPC. And then inbound rules. So click on add rule. Okay, click on add rule. And here, what we are going to do is, here also we need to open the HTTP port, HTTP traffic. Port range is 80, protocol is TCP, and the source. This is very, very important here. Source. So here I am going to allow the traffic. I am going to allow the traffic to the security group. So let it be custom here. And here I'll just type it as SG. SG. Now, can you see the web application load balancer security group, which we have created some time back? So through this security group only, the traffic should come. Through this security group only, the traffic should come. So I'm just opening this one. Okay, I'm just opening this one. If you want to open any other rules also, you can open, click on add rule. Let's say I will open for the entire VPC range. Entire VPC range. That also we can do. So click on the add rule, and then source type is HTTP again. So let me select the traffic as HTTP traffic. Protocol is TCP, port range is 80, and here source type is custom, and IP address which I am going to give is 192.168.0.0/22. So you might have a question here, what is this IP address? This is the IP address which I have used to create the VPC network. When I was creating the VPC network, I have given the CIDR block, right? For the CIDR block, that CIDR block range, I'm giving it here. So what does it mean when I give this one? It means whoever is trying to access within my VPC network, they will be able to connect to my application. So that is what I am giving it here. Okay, right. Other one also, I am going to give it as a security group, which is a web application load balancer security group. So that also I have given here. Okay, that also I have given here. And then click on create security group. Now, currently we have created the security group for external load balancer. We have created the security group for web type. Now, let's create the security group for the database. Okay, let's create the security group. Or let's say, let's create the security group for servers that are running in the private subnet. Okay, private subnet. So you can see the architecture diagram, this one. The servers which are running in the private subnets, that is app tier security group. So let's go and create the security group. So click on security groups, click on create security group. Okay, create security group. And here I'm going to give the security group name as app.sg. Why I'm giving it as app.sg? Because I'm creating the security group for app layer. So I'm just giving it as app.sg. And then VPC, I'm going to select it as demo VPC and inbound rules. Now, in app tier, what will be there? The application related code will be there. The application related code will be there. Currently, the application which we have is the React.js based application. Okay, the application which we have is the React.js based application. The React.js application which we have runs on port number 4000. Okay, the application which we have, that is React.js application which we have, it is going to run on port number 4000. So we need to open port number 4000 in the inbound rules. Remember that. Okay, so click on inbound rules and then click on add rule. Source type is custom TCP. Port range, here I'm going to give it as 4000. Why? Because our React.js application by default, it will run on port number 4000. And protocol is TCP source. And here source, I'm going to keep it as custom. And here the IP address which I'm going to give is the CIDR block of our VPC network. That is 192.168.0.0/22. This is the network, right? So, and then click on create security group. Now let's create one more security group for the internal load balancer. Okay, let's create one more security group for internal load balancer. So click on create security group. And here I'm going to give the name as internal load balancer. That is application load balancer SG. Okay, internal load balancer SG. And description also I'm giving the same thing. So I'm following the notations because it will be easy for you to remember. That's the reason why I'm giving the names according to my requirement. So VPC, I'm going to select the custom VPC which we have created and then click on add rule. And once you click on add rule, here we need to add one more rule. So currently, what is the security group that we are creating for? We are creating for internal load balancer. If you see here, there is an internal load balancer, right? So for this load balancer, I'm creating the security group, right? So now internal load balancer SG, custom TCP is the port. Okay, we need to open HTTP traffic for this. Okay, HTTP traffic for this. So I'm just opening the HTTP traffic. Protocol is TCP. Port range is 80. Okay, source type is custom. And here also, I'm going to open the CIDR block of our network. Okay, CIDR block of our network. I see 192.0.168.0.0/22. If you want, you can also divert the traffic using the custom security groups also. That also we will see by the end of this project. So currently, I'm just giving the complete VPC network range. But in general, in real-time scenarios, we don't have to give the complete VPC network range. We can customize that also further. We will see that in some time. Okay, by the end of this project, we will get to know. Right. So here I have given the rule. Okay, right. And then click on create security group. Now, so far we have created 4 security groups. So let's create one last security group, which is for the database. So I'll just keep the name as DBSG or RDSSG. Why I'm keeping it as RDS? Because we are going to use the RDS service. So I'm keeping the name as RDSSG. So I'm going to keep the description also same thing. And VPC, I'm going to select the custom VPC and here inbound rules. So click on add rule and here MySQL is the database which I'm going to use. When I'm launching the database, that is RDS instance, I'm going to use MySQL. So MySQL or Aurora, that's the same thing. So here MySQL or Aurora will run on default port number, that is 3306. Okay, protocol is TCP. Source type, I'll keep it as custom. And IP address, I'm going to give the IP CIDR block of our custom network, that is 192.168.0.0/22. This is our custom network. This is VPC network CIDR. Remember this. So whatever resources running in my VPC network, only those resources will communicate with the database. That is what I want. Okay, I don't want outsiders to access the database. Whatever the resources that are running in my VPC network, only those resources should communicate with my database. So what are the resources that are communicating with the database? The instances which are available in the private subnets. In which private subnet? App tier based private subnets. You can see the architecture diagram very clearly, right? So currently, let's click on create security group. So currently we have created 5 security groups. You can see that here. One is web tier security group. Another one is internal load balancer security group, that is web ALB security group. Another one is for the app tier security group. And the other one is internal load balancer security group. Sorry, this is external load balancer. Web tier means external. You can see that here. Web tier is the external one, which is in the public subnet. So this is external load balancer. This is internal load balancer security group. And this is the database related security group, right? So among all the security groups which we have created, only the web ALG SG is open for everyone, which means only the external load balancer is internet facing. I was telling you that. So external load balancer is internet facing. If you see the inbound rules, you can see I have given the source as anywhere. Okay, anywhere IPv4. So that means anybody from outside can access the application which is running in the web tier. That is what it means, right? So this is the first step. What is the first step? Creation of VPC and its related resources. So we have created the security groups, we have created the subnet, and we have also created the VPC itself. Now, the second step is to create the S3 bucket. Okay, the second step is to create the S3 bucket. What is the reason for creating the S3 bucket? The reason for creating the S3 bucket is we need to upload the code into the S3 bucket. Why we need to upload the code into the S3 bucket? Because in real time, uploading the complete code into the EC2 instances is a complex task. Okay, it's a complex task and we don't do that generally. So if you want to copy all the data to the EC2 instances, where our application should run, ultimately our application should run in the EC2 instances. So I have to copy the data that is available in the S3 bucket to the EC2 instance. So for that reason, to avoid the complexity of uploading the code into the EC2 instances, I'm going to upload the code into the S3 bucket, and then I'm going to get the code from the S3 bucket into the EC2 instance. So that is what we are going to do. So first what we have to do is, let us go to the GitHub repository where my code is available. So let me go to my GitHub repository. In the GitHub repository, I have created a repository which is called as a 3-tier architecture application. You can see this is the repository. The same link I am providing it in the description of the video as well. Now clone this repository into your local system. So how will you clone the repository? So click on code. Okay, click on code, and here you can see the repository URL. So copy the repository URL, go to any folder in your local system, any folder, create a new folder also, that's also fine. Click on show more options, open git bash here because I'm going to download the code using git terminal. So git clone, paste the repository URL. Okay, paste the repository URL. So let me copy it once again. I'm going to copy the code. Now let me paste the code here. Just give me a second. Yeah. Now what will happen? The code will be cloned into my local system. Now here you can see the entire code has got cloned into my local system, right? So let me open the code here, and here you can see the application code. Now in this, we have app tier code, web tier code, and Nginx configuration files are also there. Don't bother about what is there in this. We will see that in some time. Whatever the application code folder is there, okay, whatever the application code folder is there, upload this entire folder into your S3 bucket. So first let us go to the S3 service in the AWS cloud. So let me go to S3. So I'm just opening the S3 service in a new tab. In the S3 service, just create a bucket. So create a public bucket with the default settings. So create bucket. I'm going to select the bucket as general purpose. You can see the region, Mumbai region. Remember this one. And then bucket name. So I'm going to keep it as demo 3-tier project. You can keep any name to your bucket. I'm just giving this one. And the object ownership, ACLs disabled, public, block all public access, everything will be the default options. So click on create bucket. So make sure the bucket name must be globally unique. That you must be knowing that, right? I have created the bucket. So click on the bucket. Now let's upload the code. Let's upload the complete code. Which folder you want to upload? Complete application code folder. Only the application code folder. Why? Because inside this only we have everything. So upload this one. So drag it and drop it over here so that the entire application code files will be uploaded. So click on upload here. We click on upload. You can see all the folders that are available in the cloned repository. We are going to upload it, right? Once this is done, you can see it is done. So let me click on close here. Now you can see the code. So in this code also we have the files, right? Now once this is done, we need to create an IAM role. So what is the reason for creating the IAM role? So first let me go to the IAM service. What is the reason for creating the IAM role? The reason for creating IAM role is we have two EC2 instances in the app tier. Okay, if you see the app tier, we have two EC2 instances in the app tier. And these two instances are there in which subnet? Private subnet. Okay, private subnet. And also the database is also available in the private subnet. Okay, the database is also available in the private subnet. So we cannot expose the resources which are there in the private subnet to the outsiders. So for that, what we need to do, we don't want to expose. So if you want to connect to the resources, that is your EC2 instances and the RDS database, which are there in the private subnets, we have two options. First one is either we have to create a bastion host, which is the concept in VPC. But we have to create a bastion host in the public subnet, and by using the bastion host, we should connect to the resources that are there in the private subnet. That's one way. The second way is, instead of creating the bastion host and complexing it, in AWS, we have a service which is called as a systems manager. Okay, in AWS, we have a service which is called as a systems manager, SSM. So if we attach the appropriate role to the EC2 instances, which are there in the private subnets, even though the virtual machines are there in the private subnets, these EC2 instances will not have the public IPs. Okay, these instances will not have the public IPs. Okay, remember that. So even though the virtual machines are in private subnets without any public IPs, we can still connect to that VMs. How will we connect? By using the SSM agent. By using the SSM agent. But how SSM agent will connect to the virtual machines in private subnets? How SSM agents will connect to the virtual machines which are there in the private subnets? By using the IAM role. By using the IAM role. Now, what we will do is we will create one IAM role, and the role that I am going to attach, or the policy that I am going to attach, is Amazon EC2 role for SSM. Okay, Amazon EC2 role for SSM. That's the policy that I'm going to attach. So I hope you got it. What is the reason for creating the IAM role? So let me go to the IAM service. And here you can see in the left pane, there is an option called roles. So click on roles. So click on create role. Now here, I'm going to select the entity type as AWS service use case. For which use case I'm creating the IAM role for the EC2 instances. So select EC2 here, and use case is EC2. Click on next. And here, which policy we need to access, we need to give the permission Amazon EC2 role for SSM. Okay, Amazon EC2 role for SSM. You can see this is the role. Select that role. I'll click on plus icon here. You can see this role is giving the permission to all the SSMs, and it is also giving me the permission to access the EC2 messages. And also the most important thing is we need to access the S3 bucket also, right? Why we need to access the S3 bucket? Because we have the code in our S3 bucket only. So this role is giving the access to access the S3 buckets as well. So that's the reason why I am attaching a role called Amazon EC2 role for SSM. Right. And then click on next and role name. So let's say I'll give the role name as demo-ec2-role. Okay, demo-ec2-role. And then scroll down, click on create role. Click on create role. Now you can see the role has got created. So click on view role. You can see the role which we have created is this. And the policy is also, this is the policy which we have attached, Amazon EC2 role for SSM. So with this, the step 2 is also completed. That is creating the S3 bucket, uploading the code into the S3 bucket, and creating the IAM role. Now what we have to do is we have to create the database. Okay, we have to create the database. Now, in order to create the database, we are going to use a service called RDS in the AWS cloud. Okay, we have a service called RDS in the AWS cloud to create the database instances. So let's do that. In the AWS cloud, let me go to the RDS service. So I'm just opening RDS, just type RDS, you can see relational database service. So I'm just opening it in a new tab for our understanding. Now here, as I said earlier, we are not going to select the RDS, or we are not going to create the RDS, which is chargeable. So billing should not come when you are practicing. So for that reason, I'm not going to select high availability zone RDS. So I'm going to create the RDS which is there within the free tier limit. But again, before creating the RDS instance, we need to create the RDS in a specific subnets. Okay, we need to create the RDS within the specific subnets. But usually in the RDS or in the process of creating the RDS, we don't have the permission to select the subnets. Okay, we don't have the permission to select the subnets. So, but what we have is, we have another option which is called as subnet groups. Okay, we have another option, subnet groups. You can see it here, subnet groups. So in this subnet group, what I'll do is I will add the VPC, that custom VPC which we have created, and also I will add the subnets, that is DB1, DB2 subnets we have created, right? Those subnets I am going to add it into this subnet groups. And this subnet group I am going to attach to the RDS instance, which I'm going to create in some time from now. Okay, first let us create the subnet groups. So click on subnet groups, and here you can see there is already one subnet group. So I'll just delete this one. It's not required for us. Let's create a new subnet group. So click on create a DB subnet group. And here you can see subnet group name. So you can give any group name to the subnet. So I'll just give it as a DB hyphen subnet SN group, SNGP. Okay, you can give any name to your subnet. It's subnet group. It's not mandatory that you should follow only this one. But remember what is the name that you are giving. The description also I have given the same thing. VPC, I'm going to select the custom VPC, which we have created. This is the VPC that we have created. Don't select the default VPC. And then availability zone. Okay, and then availability zone. So select the availability zone. How many availability zones we have our resources? Two availability zones, AZ1 and AZ2. So let me select the two availability zones, that is AP-South-1A, AP-South-1B. Remember, these availability zones are in which region? Mumbai region only. Okay, these availability zones are there in Mumbai region. Now you see here I have got the option to select the subnets. So which subnets I need to select? I need to select the subnets called DB1 subnet, okay, DB1 subnet, and also the DB2 subnet. Where are there these DB1 and DB2 subnets? These are actually the private subnets. Okay, these are actually the private subnets. Okay, remember that. Right. So subnets I have selected, which are there in AP-South-1A and 1B availability zones. You can see these are the subnets which I have selected. And then click on create, so that the subnet groups will get created. You can see DB-SNGP subnet group has got created. Now let us attach this subnet group to the database that we are going to create. That is RDS instance that we are going to create. So click on databases in the left pane. Currently, I don't have any databases. So let me click on create database here. As I said earlier, we are going to create a standard one. So select standard create, and the engine options, which database I'm going to select. I'm going to use MySQL. If you want, you can also use Aurora as well. That's not a problem, but I'm going with MySQL. Even if you select Aurora, the commands doesn't change. So let me go with MySQL, but don't select this MariaDB or Oracle database, because these will be charged for that. So if you see that here, if I select Oracle database, if you scroll down to the complete bottom, you can see how much you have to pay. $1,356 you have to pay, which is too costly. So since we are in the practicing stage, you don't have to go with this high-end database. So let us go with MySQL database here. And then the edition is MySQL community. I'm just going with the engine version. Engine version, you can go with the latest one, or you can go with any other ones also. That's completely up to you. But it's not recommended to go with the complete latest one. So let me select 8.0.35. If you want, you can go with 3637 also. That doesn't matter actually. So I'm just going with 8.0.35. Right. And then templates. So here you see we have the free tier option. If you have selected any of the other databases, you will not see this particular option. Okay, you will not see this particular option. But in real time, that is in the production environment, we will use production. If it is in the dev environment or test environment, we'll select this one. Since we are working with the free tier capacity, I'm selecting it as free tier here. Okay, I'm selecting it as free tier. But if you have selected Oracle database or Postgres SQL, you will not be able to see this free tier. Since I am working with free tier, I don't have the option to select the multi-availability zone database cluster. You can see this option has got disabled. If by any chance, if you have selected any other database, you will be able to get this option, so that you can select the multi-availability zone database cluster. But again, as I said earlier, if you select multi-availability zone database cluster, you will be charged for that. But if you see the architecture diagram, we have the multi-AZ database. But as part of this project, to avoid the billing, I'm just going with the free tier. So that means I'm not going to use multi-AZ database cluster. And then settings. So this is actually the database name. If you want, you can change the RDS instance name, or let it be as it is also. That's not a problem as well. Okay, let's go with database one as the instance identifier. And then you can see the username for database. This is the custom username. You can, if you want, you can change this username also. Okay, if you want, you can change this username also. But let us go with the same username. And credentials. Do you want AWS to create the credentials? If you want, you can select this. If you want to create your own credentials, then you can select self-managed. Okay, self-managed credentials. Right. Now let's create the password for that. So I'm just giving the password as some password I'm giving. So you can type the password, whatever you have given, but make sure to remember the password. That's most important. Okay. And then instance configuration, let it be as it is. And the instance type, I'm going to select it as a D4 db.t4g.micro. This is actually a graviton processor. G represents graviton. Make sure you, when you are selecting the instance types, it should be a free tier eligible type. Since I have selected already the free tier eligibility here, it is showing me to select only D4TG. You can also select D4T3.micro as well, but you can see for this one, you will get 2 CPUs and 1 GB RAM. Whereas for this one, 2 CPUs and 1 GB RAM. Okay, 1 GB RAM. Okay, it doesn't matter a lot. Okay, you can select any one. Okay, and then storage type. I'm going to select the storage type as GP2, and then allocated storage, I need more 20 GB. That's more than fine for me. And then connectivity type, I don't want to connect to the EC2 compute resource. Okay, I don't want to connect to the EC2 compute resource. So don't connect to EC2 compute resource. And then network type, I'm using IPv4 only. So I'm IPv4 VPC. In which VPC I want my database to run? In which VPC I want my database to run? In the custom VPC which I have created. So select the VPC that you have created. That is demo-VPC and subnet group. I was telling you, this is where the subnet group is actually helpful. DB-SNGP, that is subnet group. Right. Public access. Do you want to give the public access to your database? It's not recommended. You should not give that. Database should be within the network itself. So I'm giving it as no. And then VPC security group firewall. So we have our own security group, right? Database security group. So select, uncheck this one, remove this one. Or here you can see existing VPC security groups. Okay, existing VPC security group. So click on this one. Okay, click on this one. And here you can see the security groups which we have created. Now, which security group we need to select? For database, we have created a separate security group. So select this one, RDS-SG. Okay, RDS-SG. And availability zone, I don't want to give any kind of preference because let it be there in whichever availability zone. Because for me, it's not a high availability. Okay, it can be there in 1A or it can be there in 1B also. That's not a problem. And create an RDS proxy. Currently, we don't need any kind of RDS proxy. Certificate authority, let us go with the default one. And then password authentication, monitoring. Do you want monitoring? If you want monitoring, you can enable it. In real time, we are going to enable the monitoring, but for time being, we don't need any kind of monitoring for this demo. So I'm just unchecking it. If you need in the real time scenarios, you have to check this one so that you'll be able to monitor the performance of your database instance. And then click on additional configuration. Initial database name, you don't have to give that. We will give that in some time. And then database parameter group, option group. And this is something that is most important. Do you want the database to take the backup? If you want, you have to enable this one. And you can see at what period you have to take the backup, retention period. So up to 35 days, you can give that retention period. So that means every 35 days, it will take the backup. If you give it as every 1 day, that is every 24 hours, it will take the backup. But if you take the backup, you'll be charged again. So I don't want the backup for now. So I'm just unchecking the enable automated backup. Okay, enable automated backup. So I don't want this one. And then enable encryption. If you want to enable the encryption, you can enable. If you don't want also, you can uncheck this one. But if you enable also, that doesn't matter. I mean, it won't be chargeable for you. Okay, let it be the AWS KMS key. That is KMS is key management service. Okay. And then maintenance. If you want maintenance, that is enable auto miner version upgrade. If you want the upgrade, you can check this one. In real time, we'll do this, but now we don't want this one because we don't want any kind of upgrades. And then maintenance window. I don't want any kind of window, so I'll just go with no preference. And here you can see I didn't get any kind of bill for that. Okay, you can see that the Amazon RDS free tier is available to you for 12 months. 12 months you can use it. Okay, so these are the instance types. Which instance type we have selected? DB T4G.micro. That's the instance type that we have selected. With this, we are ready to create the database. So click on create database. Once if you have configured everything, the database will get created. So click on close here. The database will get created. Now, to create the database or the process to create the database, it will take some time. So let it be as it is. Meanwhile, what we will do is for every database that we are going to create, we'll get a database endpoint. Okay, we'll get a database endpoint. So if you click on the database that we have created, there will be a database endpoint that you are going to get. Currently, you can see there is no endpoint because the database is still in the creating status. Once the database is created, then endpoint we are going to get. We will see how to use that endpoint in some time. So let the database created. Before the database gets created, what we will do is we are going to create the app tier resources. That is our fourth step in our project. That is application tier setup. So let us do this setup. Now, before setting up this one, if you observe the architecture diagram, our app tier, we have private subnet. I mean, this app tier is there in the private subnet. In each private subnet of availability zone, we have the EC2 instance. Now, what we will do is we will launch one EC2 instance. Okay, we will launch one EC2 instance for app tier in the private subnet. Okay, in the private subnet in our custom VPC only, not in the default VPC. So this EC2 instance I am going to launch in the custom VPC, that is in the private subnet, and this VPC I'll use it for the app tier. Now from this VPC, what I'll do is I'll connect to the database. I'll connect to the database. Why? Because I want the application, I mean, whenever the end users enters any kind of data through this instance or through the application, I want the data to get stored here. Okay. So I will launch an EC2 instance for app tier in the private subnet. And from this instance, what I'll do is I'll connect to this database. Okay. I'll connect to this database. And then I will do the required configuration for the database from this instance. Understand this one. What I'll do is I'll launch one EC2 instance for app tier in the private subnet. And from this instance, I'll connect to the database. Okay, I'll connect to the database. And then whatever configurations that are required for this database, I will do all those configurations from this instance. From this instance. Now you might have a question like, what about this EC2 instance? We are not going to create this EC2 instance manually. What we will do is we will create an auto-scaling group for that. Okay, we'll create an auto-scaling group. Once we create an auto-scaling group, we'll attach that auto-scaling group to the load balancer. Load balancer will maintain that one. Load balancer will maintain the connection between the AZ1 EC2 instance and AZ2 EC2 instance. High availability we need, right? So I'll create only one instance. In the later cases, we will see how to create a load balancer and how to attach the auto-scaling group for that. And when you attach automatically, this instance will also go and connect to the database as well. Okay, but currently for the configuration related to the database, I have to launch one EC2 instance. That's our fourth step, application tier setup. Now let us go to the EC2 service. Okay, you can see the database also got created. So let us go to the EC2 service first. So I'm just going to the EC2 service. In the EC2 service, I'm going to launch one EC2 instance. So let me click on instances. Now currently we don't have any instances. You see, I'm there in the Mumbai region only. So click on launch instance. Click on launch instance. Now, which instance I'm creating? App tier instance. So I'll keep the name as a app tier instance. If you observe the architecture diagram, I'm creating the app tier instance only. Right. And then AMI. I'm going to select the Amazon Linux only. If you want, you can go with Amazon Linux 2023. But whatever commands that I'm going to execute, all those commands are restricted for Amazon Linux to AMI. So make sure when you are practicing, you should select Amazon Linux to AMI only. And instance type t2.micro is more than fine for me for this project demonstration. And then key pair login. So we don't want to connect to the EC2 instance using any third-party tool. So I'll connect to the EC2 instance using the session manager. So for that, I'll not go with any kind of key pair. So I'll select it as proceed without a key pair. Network settings. Where my app tier instance should be there, it should be there in my custom network. By default, it will be there in the default network. So let me click on edit, VPC, select the demo VPC. In which subnet it should be there? In which subnet it should be there? It should be there in app1 subnet only. Okay, remember this. If you click on the drop down, you will see all the subnets that we have created. But this particular instance, that is app tier instance, it should be there in which subnet? App1 subnet. App1 subnet is public or private? It is a private subnet. Remember this. We have already discussed about this one. This is a private subnet. And do we need a public IP for that? It's not required because we don't connect to the EC2 instance using the IP address. We'll connect using the session manager. And then security group. Do we need to create a new security group? No, we have already created the security groups. So click on select existing security group. And here we are going to select which security group. We have created app security group, right? So select the app security group. Okay, select the app security group. Configuration, let it be 8 GB. More than that, it's not required. And click on advanced details. And here is the most important thing. We have created an IAM role, right? So that IAM role, we have to attach it to this instance. I told you, whatever EC2 instances that you are launching, all those EC2 instances should be attached to this EC2 role only. This is IAM role only. So that only the configuration and the connection will be proper. Otherwise, you will not be able to connect to the instance. Okay, remember that. This is the most important thing. And then click on launch instance. So with this, instance is also launched. So let me click on instance ID. Now let us connect to the EC2 instance. Okay, let us connect to the EC2 instance. Before connecting to the EC2 instance, let's see whether the instance is in the running state or not. Once instance came into the running state, then we can connect to the instance. So you can see currently the instance is in the running state. As I said earlier, do we have the public IP for this instance? No, I have disabled that one. Only private IP is there. So how will you connect to the instance? So select the instance, click on connect. You can see an option called session manager. So click on session manager, and here you can see connect option. Immediately you won't be able to see this connect button. You have to wait for some time. Okay, when you are doing practice, don't immediately come and check here. If you check also, it won't be enabled. It will take some 2 to 3 minutes to get this option enabled. Even after 2 to 3 minutes, if you are not able to see this connect button, there is some problem with the security group that you have attached. App security group we have attached, right? So you must not have opened port number 4000 or something like that. Okay, make sure to check the security group for that, right? And then click on connect here. Now, when you click on connect, you will be connected to the EC2 instance. You'll be connected to the EC2 instance, right? Now, what we have to do is we have connected to the database. Okay, we have connected to the database. Remember this one. We have connected to the EC2 instance. Sorry, not the database. We have connected to the EC2 instance. From which EC2 instance we have connected? From this particular EC2 instance. Now, what we have to do, we have to set up the configuration for the database. Okay, from this instance. So let us do that configuration. So firstly, all the commands which I'm going to use have been given here. So I'll show those commands also in step 4. This is the one. So we have to install MySQL, and then we have to configure the database, and we have to create the tables and all those things we have to do. So let's do that one by one. So before doing that, let us switch to the root user. Okay, let us switch to the root user. So now what we will do is sudo su is the command to switch to the root user. Sorry, sudo su is the command to switch to the root user. So currently, if you do who am I, you can say I'm the root user, right? Now, let me switch to the directory, that is default directory, cd space dot dot. If you do pwd, I'm there in /user path. So usually what we will do is we need to work with the package. Okay, we need to work with the instances. Now, before doing that, what I'll do is I will be switching to the /home/ec2 user path. So cd space /home, okay, /ec2 user. That's my current working directory. You can see that /home/ec2 user. So first, let us check whether this instance is having the internet connectivity or not. So how will you check that? Let me ping a ID, an IP address. So ping 8.8.8.8. So you should see the response. If you see the response, that means internet is coming for your instance. You can see the response is coming. That means internet is available for this instance. Now, how the internet is coming for this instance? By using the internet gateway. By using the internet gateway. Okay, remember that. That's how the internet is coming for this instance. So let me press Ctrl+C to come out of this. Ctrl+C to come out of this. Let me clear the screen first. Right. Now, what we have to do is we need to do the configuration for database. Okay, let us configure the database in this instance. So in this instance, we will do the app server setup and database server configuration also. So first, let us install MySQL for that. So currently, I'm copying the MySQL installation command. So just go to the browser and then paste it here so that MySQL client will get installed. It's not MySQL database, it's actually the MySQL client. Once this is done, then we need to configure the MySQL database. So how will you configure a MySQL database? If you want to configure, you can see this is the option. I mean, this is the command. So in order to connect to the database, we need to give some configuration. Okay, we need to give some configuration. Now, here you can see this is the command. Now, in this command, what you have to do is you have to you have to remove. Let me keep it as example. So I'll just keep it as an example. This is the thing, right? Now, here what we have to do is we have to replace here the database endpoint. Okay, we have to replace here the database endpoint. You can see the example also here, which I have already used. So let me go and get the database endpoint. So how will you get the database endpoint? Go to the RDS service. Okay, go to the RDS service. In the RDS, we have created the database, right? So for that database, we must have got the endpoint. You can see, I'll just reload the page also for confirmation. You can see I have opened the database one, which we have created. And here you can see the database endpoint. So copy this database endpoint, go here. And in this place, okay, observe this carefully. In this place, I'm just going to paste the database endpoint. I'm going to paste the database endpoint, right? Now copy this entire thing. Copy this entire thing and then execute this command and then execute the command. So let me go here, system manager, and then execute this command. Before executing, let me clear the screen first. Right. So execute this command. When you execute this command, what will happen is it will ask you to enter the password. When you are launching the EC2 RDS instance, okay, when you are launching the RDS instance, you have set up the custom password, right? So enter that password. So you can see it is asking me to enter the password. Only if you enter the password successfully, then only you will be able to connect to the database. Now just type the password. Remember, when you are typing the password, you will not be able to see. Once you type the password, just press enter. You can see currently I have connected to the database. Which database? MySQL database. Remember that when you are typing the password, you will not see directly. Okay, you will not see directly. Just type the password and then press enter. If you have given the correct password, you will be there inside the database. Which database? MySQL database. Right. Now, currently, I am there in the MySQL database. Now, let's create our own database. Let's create our own database. So, the database name which we are going to create is called as Web App DB. Web App DB. This is the database name. So let me create a database with a name called Web App DB. If you want, you can give any name also. That's not a problem. So I'm creating the name of the database as a Web App DB. So press enter. The database has got created. Once you have created the database, now what we will do is we need to create one table. Okay, we need to create one table. So I'm going to create a table in the database. Remember, whatever things that you are going to create in the database, every data will be stored in the form of tables only. That I hope you know that. Now let's verify whether we have really created the database or not. Okay, let's verify whether we have really created the database or not. So show databases. So you can see the database which we have created, Web App DB. That is the database which I have created some time back. Okay, that is the database which I have created some time back. You can see that. Right. Now let's use the database. Currently, which database I'm using? I'm not using any database. So if you want to use the Web App DB which you have created, execute this command. Use space the database name. Whatever database name you have given, give the database. Now can you see database changed? Now what is the database name? Web App DB. Earlier it was none. Now it is Web App DB. So let me clear the screen. Right. So now you can see I am in the database. Now what we have to do is we need to create a table. Okay, we need to create a table. The table name which I'm going to give it as a transactions. That's the table name which I'm going to create. Okay, so here we are going to create a table with a name called transactions. Inside the database called Web App DB, I'm going to create a table called transactions. So copy this entire command. It will allow you to create the table. So I'm just going to paste it here. Right. Once it is done, press enter. Now the table also got created. Now you want to know whether the table has got really created or not. This is the command. Show tables is the command to see whether the table has got created or not. What is the table name? Transactions. Let's verify whether we got a table or not. Now can you see the transactions table is available now. Right. Now what we will do is let us insert some information into the table. Okay, let us insert some information into the table. Now, how will you insert the information into the table? Okay, how will you insert the information into the table? So if you want to insert the information into the table, this is the command. Insert into, this is the table name, transactions. So I'm just giving amount as one column, description as another column, values. So for amount, I'm entering this value, and for groceries, I'm entering this value. This is the Description. This is the amount and this is the description. If you want to change, you can change the description also. Whatever you want, you can give that. Whatever amount you want, you can give that. It is just a table. I'm just creating a table. That's it. Okay, let me paste that command, press enter. That's it. We have successfully created the entries in our database also. Let's see whether we have really created the entries or not. So I'm just using select command for that. Now, if you click enter, you should see the amount as 4,000 and you should see the description as groceries. Let's verify that. Now, can you see? Amount is 4,400, description is groceries. But here, what we are doing, we are entering the data from the instance. Directly into the database, we are entering. But this is not my real-time scenario. In real time, what will happen? When application is open to public, users will enter the data. Whenever users enters the data, you will be able to see the data here in the database. Okay, you'll be able to see the database here. Now, for currently, I am just showing how to create the entries inside the database. Right. Now, if you want to summarize this entire thing from the app server, what we are doing, I am able to connect to my database from the app server, that is app tier instance. I am able to connect to my database server and I am able to write some information inside the database server. Am I able to write the information? Yes, I'm going to I have written some amount and some description inside the database. Okay, inside the database. Now, here we have connected the private instance in private subnet of app tier and database instance which is there in the database tier. Remember, database tier is not required to be connected with the app tier. It's not required. Okay, database tier is not required to be connected to the app tier or even the web tier also. It is there only in the backend. Right. Now, currently I'm there in the web app DB. Now I want to come out of this. Okay, I want to come out of this. So if you want to come out of this, just type exit and then press enter. Now you see you have come out of the database now. Now here, one thing that we need to do, one configuration we need to do. What is the database that I have created? The database which I have created is a web app DB. Now go to the folder which you have cloned. In the beginning, we have cloned the repository, right? Go to that folder, application code. And if you go to the web tier, if you go to the app tier, inside the app tier, you have a file called dbconfig.js. Okay, you have a file called dbconfig.js. Open this dbconfig.js using any of the code editors. So currently, I'm opening the code VS Code editor. Now here you can see DB host. This is actually the database endpoint. Now for our database, we got the database endpoint, right? So copy the database endpoint and paste it here. This configuration is very, very important to run the application. So I'm just pasting it here, the database endpoint. What is my database username? Admin, default one. What is my database password? This is the password which I have set. If you want, you can set a new password also. But remember, whatever password that you have created while creating the EC2, while creating the RDS instance, that is the same password you should give it here. Okay, don't give any other wrong passwords. It won't be connected. And this is my database name. What is the database name which I have created? The database name is web app DB. If you see here, this is my database name. Okay, this is my database name. So that's the name that you should give it here. Make sure of it. Once you edit this file, save it. Control S to save the file. Okay, Control S to save the file. Once this file is saved successfully, what you have to do is go to the S3 service. Okay, go to the S3 service. Since we have updated the dbconfig.js file, we need to update that file. Okay, we need to update that file. Now just go to the bucket, go to the application code. Inside the application code, you can see app tier. You can see app tier. So click on app tier. And this is the old configuration file, dbconfig.js. This is the old one. Now let us create a new file. We have edited this file, right? This file we need to upload. Instead of this file, we need to upload that file. So you just upload it directly so that it will get replaced automatically. You don't have to bother because we haven't enabled a versioning for the bucket. So that means automatically whatever the old file is there, it will be replaced with the new file that we are going to upload. So let me click on upload here. Let me click on upload. Now drag this one because in this file I have done the modifications, RDS endpoint, database name, and all those things I have given. So click on add it here. Now click on upload. That's it. Remember, this is the most important step in our project. Now you can see the dbconfig.js file has been updated. Okay, updated. Right. Now, let us go back to the systems manager where we have connected to the instance. So currently I have come out of the instance. Okay, currently I have come out of the instance. Now what we will do is let us install and configure Node.js. Let us install and configure Node.js. As I said earlier, we are working with the Node.js application. So we need to install Node.js for that. So for that, let me clear the screen first. Okay, let me type clear is the command to clear the screen. Right. Now let us install. Okay, let us install Node.js. You can see that here. At the same step, I have given it here also. When you are practicing, make sure of remembering that. So let us install and configure the Node.js also. So I'm just copying the first command and then execute it here so that you will be curling to that one. Once that is done, then you need to source it. That means you are going to the bash shell. So I'm just pasting that command also here. Press enter. Now, once that is done, then we need to install NVM. What is NVM? Node version manager. NVM means node version manager. So let me install NVM also for our setup. Once you install NVM, you have to tell to the instance to use NVM. So NVM use 16. Which version of NVM we have installed? 16th version. So I have to tell that from now on we need to use NVM 16. So I have just given that. Okay, I have just given that. Right. Now, once we have told that, now what we need to do is we need to run the node as a service. Okay, you need to run the node as a service. So if you want to run node as a service, we will install PM2. Okay, we will install PM2 for that. So let me go and install PM2 for that. You can see this is the PM2. So copy this one. I'm going to paste it here. So let me paste it here to configure PM2 for that. You can see it will take some time for that. But once it is done successfully, then we can proceed to the next step. Okay, why I'm installing this one? To run node as a service. Remember that, to run node as a service. Right. Now, currently you are there in EC, you are currently the root user. Now let me switch my path. What is my PWD? You can see /home/EC2 user. That's my path. Let me clear the screen and I'll execute it. You can see I'm currently /home/EC2 user. Now, let me switch the path. Okay, let me switch the path. CD space dot dot. Okay, CD space dot dot. Now, you can see I'm there in /home. I'm there in /home path. Or if you just type CD also, okay, CD space dot dot, you can see I'm there in this path. Or you can also type CD tilde symbol you give, tilde and then backslash. Right. So you make sure you are there in this path. Okay, right. Now what we need to do is we need to copy the code that is available in the S3 bucket. We have the code in S3 bucket, right? That code we need to copy it to the EC2 instance. That code we need to copy it to the EC2 instance. So how will you copy the code to the EC2 instance? We have a command for that. We have AWS S3 CP. CP represents copy. Now here you give the bucket name. You give the bucket name. And this is the path. So let me copy this entire one. I'll paste it here. What is my bucket name? Whatever the bucket that you have created, give the same bucket name. So this is my bucket name, demo-3-tier-project. Give the same bucket name here. Okay, same bucket name here. Rest of the path will remain same. It won't get changed. Remember that. Rest of the path will remain same. It won't get changed because we have the application code folder. Let me show you that. We have the application code folder. Inside that, we have the app tier folder. That is the path that I have mentioned. Okay, right. So let me copy this and everything into my EC2 instance. Okay, into my EC2 instance. Only then the configuration will be done. So copy the code. Right. Once you click enter, what will happen is the code will be copied. Which folder will get copied? The folder called app tier will get copied because I have specifically mentioned app tier here. So that folder only will get copied. If you want to cross verify, just do ls. You can see app tier folder has got copied. App tier folder has got copied. Right. Now let us switch to the directory. So cd space app tier. Let us go inside the app tier directory. Here, what we will do is we will install npm node port manager. We will install for that. Okay, we will install node port manager. Okay, let me install the node port manager for the configuration. So I'm just pressing enter. The node port manager is installing. It got installed. Once that is done, if you do ls, you'll be able to see a file which is called as index.js file. Okay, you'll be able to see a file called index.js file, right? Now, let's verify. Let's start this index.js file. Okay, before verifying, let's start this index.js file. So if you want to start the index.jsp file, the command is pm to start index.js. pm to start index.js. Once if you click enter, you should see the status as online. You should see the status as online. That's most important, right? Now let's verify it. Okay, currently we are seeing the status as online. Let's verify. If you want to further verify, we have a command called pm2 list. Now when you do pm2 list also, you can see the status as online. You can also execute another command which is called as pm2 status also. Anything you can execute, right? Once you do this one, if you want to check the logs, again this is optional, but if you want to check the logs, you can get by using pm2 space logs. You can see these are the logs. So if you want to come out of it, here you can see the IP address, right? You can see a link here. From this link only we can access the application, but currently we will not be able to access the application. If you click on this link, you can see I'm unable to access the application because we still have to do some configurations over there. So let me come out of this. How will you come out of this? Control C, right? Let me clear the screen. Now what we will do is let us start that pm2 startup. Okay, pm2 startup is the command to start pm2. So pm2 startup, I have started pm2. Now let us save this configuration. Whatever configuration that we have done, let us save that. So pm2 save, right? The configuration also got saved. Okay, the configuration also got saved. Now what we need to do is we need to do the curl command. Okay, we need to do the curl command. If you do curl http localhost :4000/health, what should it return is, it should return a thing called, this is the health check. Can you see that here at the end? This is the health check. If you are able to see that, whatever configuration that you have done so far, everything is successful. Okay, with this we have completed the application configuration. Okay, whatever configuration that is required for the application, that is all done now. That is all done now. Now what we have to do is, for app tier, if you see the architecture diagram, for app tier, don't we have an load balancer? Yes, we do have the load balancer. Is this an internal load balancer or external load balancer? This is an internal load balancer. So what we will do is, let us create one internal load balancer. Okay, let us create one internal load balancer. But before creating the internal load balancer, okay, before creating the load balancer, we have to create the target groups for that. Okay, we have to create the target groups and we have to attach that target group to the internal load balancer. Now, firstly, we shall create an internal load balancer and we will update the Nginx configuration with the internal load balancer DNS name. Okay, by using the DNS name of the internal load balancer, we are going to update the Nginx configuration. Nginx is a web server. Just like Tomcat, we have Nginx is a web server. So I'm going to use Nginx web server for this project. Right. So let us create the internal load balancer for that. So firstly, let me go to the EC2 service. In the EC2, we can create the load balancer. But before creating the load balancer, we have to create the target groups. So click on target groups here in the left pane. So just click on create target group and target. What is our target? Instances, because we have instances only, right? So instances is our target, and name. I'm going to give the target name as app hyphen. It's an app type target group. I mean load balancer. So which load balancer? It's an internal load balancer. So I'll give it as TG, app internal TG. And protocol, I'm going to give it as HTTP. And as I said earlier, our application will run on port number 4000. So I'm going to give it as port number 4000. IP address is IPv4. VPC is demo VPC. That means we have created a custom VPC, right? That VPC we have to give. And the protocol version is HTTP 1. Health checks, let it be HTTP only. Okay, let it be HTTP only. And health check path, let me give it as health here. Okay, let me give it as a /health. Okay, and then click on next. And here you can see which instance you want to register for this target group, app tier instance. Okay, app tier instance you want to register to the target group which we are creating. So select that one and then click on include as pending below. Okay, click on include as pending below. Okay, remember that. This is a most important thing. Again, one more thing. Okay, let me click on include as pending below and then click on create target group. So with this, we have successfully created the target group. Now this target group, what we will do is we will attach to the load balancer that we are going to create. So let me click on load balancers here. Currently, we don't have the load balancer. So click on create load balancer. I'm going to select the app load balancer only, that is application load balancer. Click on create and load balancer name. Let's say I'll give the load balancer name as app hyphen. It's an internal load balancer, right? So internal LB, app hyphen internal LB. That's the load balancer name. Is it an internet facing or internal one? It's an internal one, not in an internet facing one. So if you see here, the internal load balancer, is it facing directly to the internet? No, it is there as an internal part of the VPC network. So I'm selecting it as internal. Load balancer IP address is IPv4. Networking is demo VPC. That's a custom VPC that we have used. And here availability zones. So I want to spread my resources across multiple availability zones. So I'm selecting both ones. And here we need to select the subnet group. Okay, we need to select the subnets. Now here, which subnet we need to select is, we need to select the app1 subnet. Okay, app1 subnet, and we need to select the app2 subnet also. Why we are selecting app1 and app2? Because whatever load balancer that we are creating here, it is for which tier? App tier. Okay, it is for app tier. For app tier, what are the subnets? App1 and app2 are the subnets. So that's why I'm selecting app1 subnet group and app2 subnet group. And then security groups. So this is default security group we don't need because we have created our own security group some time back. So click on this one. And here we have created internal load balancer security group, right? So app internal load balancer security group. This is the one. Okay. So let me select that one. Internal load balancer security group. App internal load balancer security group. So select this one. Right. That's done. Once this is done, then in the backend, what will happen is the instances will be running by using this target group. Okay, security group. Now, let's select the target group also. Now, protocol is HTTP, port is 80, and I am going to divert the traffic, or I am going to forward the traffic to which target group? App internal target group. Okay, I'm going to divert the traffic to app internal target group. So I'm just selecting this one. With this, we have successfully created the load balancer. So click on create load balancer. If you have done every configuration properly, that means your load balancer will be created. So you can see the status of load balancer, it is in the provisioning state. So after some time, you'll see the status as success. Okay, you'll see the status as success. Now, before we work anything further, what we need to do is for every load balancer, we'll get the DNS name. You can see the DNS name is available. For every load balancer, we'll get the DNS name. Now, this DNS name, we are going to configure in the Nginx file. We have a file in our local system, which we have cloned. All right, you can see nginx.conf. So I told you, we are going to use Nginx configuration file, I mean Nginx server. So just open this Nginx configuration file with any one of the code editors. Once you open that, here if you scroll down to the bottom, you scroll down to the little bottom, you will see the internal load balancer URL. I mean the DNS of internal load balancer. This is the DNS of internal load balancer. In this place, you have to provide your DNS name of the internal load balancer. So let me copy this DNS name of the internal load balancer and let me paste it here. That's it. Okay, let me copy and let me paste it. So let me paste it here itself. Just give me a second. I don't want all of this, so I'll just keep it from here. Okay, remember, make sure you are going to copy it properly, because if you do any mistake here, you will not be able to see the end application. So I'm just pasting it here. That's done. I have pasted it. Once this is done, just save the file. Okay, save the file. Now, since we have made the changes in the local system, we need to upload that change into my S3 bucket also. So we need to upload the updated nginx.conf file into the S3 bucket, where we need to update directly into the S3 bucket. Open the S3 bucket. So you have the S3 bucket, right? Open the folder that's called as application code. Directly here you can see nginx.conf. In this folder only, I mean, you just replace this file. When you upload, automatically this file will get replaced. Okay, click on upload. Now let me replace that file. So select, drag and drop that file, nginx.conf, because in this file only we have the load balancer DNS name. So, and then click on upload. It will get replaced automatically. Right, you can see nginx.conf file has got replaced. Right. So this one we are going to use it in some time. Okay, this nginx.conf file, we are going to copy it to the web server. Okay, we are going to copy it in the web server. In some time, we will see that. Why web server? Because this is where my front end of the application should be available. Okay, if any end users wants to access the application, it should be there in the web tier. So this nginx.conf file, I am going to configure it to the this one. Which one? The web tier. The web tier. Okay, right. So with this, we have successfully created the app tier resources. We have successfully created the app tier resources. So first what we have done, we have created the app tier resources, and then we have created the internal load balancer for app tier also. Okay. Now let's talk about the next step. Let's talk about the next step. What is our next step? To create the web tier resources. App tier resources we have created. App tier resources we have created. Now let's go with the web tier setup or web tier resource creation. In the web tier also, we need to create one EC2 instance. We need to do the configuration for load balancer. We need to do the configurations, that is to install NVM and all those things. And then we have to attach the load balancer. Now, which load balancer? Since we are working with the web tier, which load balancer we need? External load balancer we need. So far, we have done up to here. Internal load balancer we have created. The instance in the app tier, that also we have created. We have created the database. We have connected from private EC2 instance to the database, and we have done the configurations in the database also. Now what we have to do is we need to create the load balancer, external load balancer. But before creating the external load balancer, let us create one EC2 instance for the web tier. After creating the EC2 instance, I will, since I need high availability, I'll create an auto scaling group for that. So let me create one EC2 instance for the web tier. So in order to create the EC2 instance for the web tier, so let me launch one EC2 instance, and in that EC2 instance, we are going to install the Node.js and Nginx. Okay, we are going to install the Node.js and Nginx. So let me go to the instances. In the instances, what we will do is we are going to launch one instance. Currently, we have app tier instance. Now let us launch one web tier instance also. Okay, web tier instance. So click on launch instances. So I'll keep the name as web tier instance. Okay, web tier instance. Keep the name as web tier instance, and I'm going to select Amazon as my operating system, and AMI I'm going to select it as Amazon Linux to AMI. Okay, AMI I'm going to select it as Amazon Linux to AMI, and then the instance type, let us go with the t2.micro key pair. Okay, if you want, you can select an existing key pair, or let me go with the without key pair also we can go. Okay, if you want to connect with the session manager, you can work with this one. So however, I'm going to connect with the session manager only. So I'm going to go with this particular one, right? And then network settings. So we need to launch this instance in the default VPC, not in the default VPC, but in the custom VPC, that is demo VPC. And here the subnets, which subnets we need to attach? The web tier instance are there in which subnets? Public subnets. Okay, they are there in the public subnet. So let me select the public subnets. So demo VPC, let me click here. Demo VPC app1, VPC subnet 1, subnet 2. Here you can see public 1 subnet, public 2 subnet. So public 1 is this one. Okay, let us go with the public 1. Okay, public 2 also you can select, no problem. If it is for high availability, we'll attach the auto scaling group and we'll give both the subnets, both the availability zone subnets. Okay, let me select AP-south-1A public 1. Okay, public 1. And then auto assign public IP. Do you want public IP for this instance? Yes. Why? Because it's a public instance. It's a public instance. Anybody should access the application running in this instance. But in general, do we give the public IPs to the end users? No. But for our practice, what we will do is, I'll first show you how to access the application using the public IP address. Then we will configure by using the Route 53. Okay, for that reason, I'm going to enable the public IP. So auto assign public IP, just enable it. And security group, do we need to go with the new security group? It's not required. So let us go and select the existing security group. And here, since it's a web server, which security group we need to attach? A web security group we need to attach. So we have created the web security group, not the ALB security group, the web security group. Remember this one. ALB is for load balancer. And then configuration, that is also done. Click on advanced details. Make sure to attach the IAM role. Okay, make sure to attach the IAM role. So I have attached the IAM role. Click on launch instance. Click on launch instance, right? Now the instance is launched. Once you have launched the EC2 instance, we need to connect to that EC2 instance. Okay, again, I'm going to use session manager to connect to the EC2 instance. Okay, sessions manager to connect to the EC2 instance. So let it come. Once it comes, we will connect and then we will do the configuration, whatever that is required to do in the EC2 instance. That is a web tier EC2 instance. So you can see, select the web tier instance. Okay, and then click on connect. Go to session manager. You can see connect. So click on connect here. So currently you can see I have successfully connected to the web tier instance. Now, once after you connect to the web tier instance, let me switch to the EC2 user. So how will you switch? Sudo -su space EC2 -user. Okay, click enter. Now you are the EC2 user. If you do who am I, you can find that I'm the EC2 user. Right. Now what we will do is we need to work with couple of things. Okay, first we need to do some curl command. So let me execute. So in step 5, I have given all the commands also. You can also use the same thing. So let me switch to /home/EC2 user path. Okay, cd space /home/EC2 user. If you do pwd, you can see I'm there in that path. Right, let me do the curl command to install from the GitHub. Okay, from the GitHub. So let me paste it here, press enter. Once that is done, let me enter into the bash shell by executing this command. And once that is done, then we need to install NVM 16, upon which we need to use NVM 16. So how will you use NVM 16? NVM use 16. That's the command to tell that to use NVM 16. Right, I have used that. Let me clear the screen. Now what we have to do is we need to copy the content. We need to copy the content from the from the EC2, from the S3 bucket, not to the EC2 instance, from the bucket. Okay, from the bucket. So let us copy that. So this is the command to copy the content from the bucket. So earlier we have already copied the web app tier. Now let's copy the web tier folder also. So here, let me give the bucket name. So let's go and copy the bucket name once. So this is my bucket name, demo 3 tier project. That's my bucket name. Right. So let me paste it here. Sorry, not here. Let me paste it in this one. So give the bucket name here. So I have just given the bucket name. So copy this entire command so that whatever content that is there in the web tier folder, all that content will come here. Okay, all that content will come here. Right, you can see that. Now, if you do ls, you can see, let me clear the screen. If you do ls, you can see the web tier folder, you can see that. So let me switch to the web tier folder, cd space web tier. Now let us install npm install. So that's the command. Let me cross check. Okay. npm install. Yeah, npm install is the command. And then we will run the build also. npm run build. So let us do that. Once this is done, then we are going to work with the Nginx configuration as well. Okay, we are going to work with the Nginx configuration as well. So first, I'm installing npm. What is npm? Node port manager. So it will take some time. So I'll pause this video till it gets finished and then I'll come back. So you can see the npm has got installed. And now let us run it. npm run build. That's the command to run it. So npm run build. So it is also done. So it will again take some time. So please wait for some time till everything gets finished. So once this is done, then the next thing that we have to do is we have to install Nginx. So in order to install Nginx, this is the command to install Nginx. So let me copy it and paste it here so that the Nginx server will also get installed. Once this installation is done, then what we have to do is we need to update the Nginx configuration. Okay, we need to update the Nginx configuration. So let me first go to that path, cd space /etc/nginx. That's a default path. So I'm switching to that path. Currently, if you see, I'm there in the Nginx path. And once it is done, then you can see a file called nginx.conf file. You can see that nginx.conf file. This is the same file that is there in my local system. Okay, this is the same file that is there in my local system. In the local system, we have updated the nginx.conf file. If you remember, I have updated with the DNS of the load balancer. internal application load balancer I have updated with this one, right? So this updated file, okay, this updated file should come into the EC2 instance. So for that, what we have to do is we have to remove this one. Okay, we have to remove this one. That's the command. You can see that. So first, let us remove the existing one because it is not an updated one. So let me remove the existing one. Sudo rm. Rm represents remove. Once it is removed, then we shall copy the nginx.conf file from the S3 bucket, because in the S3 bucket I have already uploaded, right? I have already uploaded the existing, I mean, I have already uploaded the updated code, updated code. So copy the bucket name, and then paste it here, That's it. Now make sure in the end dot should be there. If you are not sure whether I have uploaded the nginx.conf file into my locals, into my S3 bucket or not, make sure to go and upload it. So let me go to the application folder. You can see I have uploaded that. I have uploaded that some time back on, right? Now what we will do is let us execute this command so that what will happen is whatever the nginx.conf file that we have updated, that configuration will come here. Okay, let me paste that command. Right, you can see nginx.conf file will get updated here. So let me clear the screen. Right. Once that is done, let us restart the Nginx. Nginx is a service, right? So since we have done the changes to the configuration file, we need to restart it. So let me restart it. Once that is restarted, let me give the permissions. Okay, I'm giving the read, write, access, read, write, execute permission, and 5 permission. 5 means write and execute permission as well. I mean, read and write permission as well. Once that is done, let me use the command to turn on the nginx, sudo chkconfig nginx on. That is also done. Right. Now, if you want to check the output, okay, if you want to check the output, we can use the webtire instance public IP. Okay, webtire instance public IP. But directly, if you use, you will not be able to see that. So before doing that, what we need to do is we need to open port number 80. Okay, we need to open port number 80 with HTTP as a protocol and source as anywhere IPv4 and with the public, because everybody wants to access, right? So for that reason, I'm giving it as 0.0.0/0. Right. Let's go to the webtire instance. Let me go to the webtire instance, select it, go to security here. If you scroll down, you can see security group link. Click on security group link. And here you can see edit inbound rules. So click on edit inbound rules, click on add rule. Source is HTTP. Okay, the type is HTTP and protocol is TCP, port range is 80, source anywhere IPv4. Why I am giving anywhere? Because anybody across the globe should be able to access this application. So that's why I'm giving it as anywhere IPv4. You can check that also here. I have given it as anywhere IPv4 and 0.0.0/0. That's the CADR range, right? And then click on save rules. Once this is done, now we are good to go and access the application. Okay, now we are good to go and access the application. Now select the webtire instance, go to details, copy the public IP address of the instance. Which instance? Webtire instance. So copy the public IP address, go to a new tab, paste it, and then click enter. When you click enter, you should be able to see the application. Can you see the application? Yes. Now what we have to do is we have to enter the data. We have to enter the data. So how will you enter the data? Here you can see there are 3 dots over there, right? There are 3 dots. So click on these 3 dots. Here you can see there is an option called DB demo. This is home page. Home page, when you click, you will be seeing this one. Okay. When you click on DB demo, you can add the data into the database. You can add the data into the database. Let's say I'll add a data called 500 and I'll add some book name, Python engineering. And then click on add. You can see the data is entering. So assume that a user is accessing this website. Now user is entering the data. So let's say another data, I'm giving it as 600 and I'm giving it as machine learning. I'm giving some information there. And then press add. Click on add. You can see. Now assume that you are the user. Now, are you able to enter the data or not? Yes. So this is how we can access the application. So this is again the pure real-time work only. But here there is one logic that we should not miss. Okay, there is one logic that we should not miss. in real time, do we give the public IP of the instances to the end users? Do we give the public IP address of the public IP addresses of the instances to the end users? No, we should not give that. We should not give that. Can we attach the load balancer, and can we give the DNS of the load balancer? That is also not recommended. Okay, that is also not recommended. So then what we have to do, we have to create our own domain. Okay, we have to create our own domain that's called as custom domain. So how will you create a custom domain? By using Route 53 in AWS. Okay, by using Route 53 in AWS. There is a separate video which I have done in order to create, or how to create a custom domain and how to work with that. Please watch that video if you don't have the custom domain. But remember that you will be charged at least some 1200 to 1300 if you want to create a custom domain. At least 1200 it will be charged. Okay. But if you don't want to work with the custom domain, you can stop this project here. But anyway, you can continue watching the work or continue watching the video, what I have done further. Okay, what I have done further. But again, as I was telling, in real time, we don't deliver the applications using the public IP addresses. Then what we need to do, we need to create the load balancer. Which load balancer we need to create? Internet facing load balancer. That is external load balancer we have to create. Okay, external load balancer we have to create. But are we going to give the DNS name of the external load balancer to end users? It is also not recommended. So what we need to do, we need to map the DNS name of the load balancer to the Route 53 custom domain. Route 53 custom domain. That also I'm going to show you as a part of this project. Right. So firstly, what we will do is, let us create the load balancer, that is external load balancer. This external load balancer is internet facing. It is getting the direct access from the internet. That's why I'm calling it as internet facing external load balancer. But before creating the load balancer, it is recommended to create the security groups. Once you create the security group, then you can attach that security group to the load balancer. So let's create the load balancer security group. So how will you create the security group load balancing here? You can see, sorry, not the security group, target group, not the security group, target group. So click on target groups. And then currently we have app internal target group. So now let's create external web target group or web external target group, anything you can say. So let me go with instances and then target group name. Let's say I'll give it as external web target group. Okay, external web target group. That's the name that I am going to give to the target group. Okay, this target group I need to attach to which one? I need to attach to the external load balancer. Okay, that's why I'm giving it as external web target group. Okay, external web target group. Right. So target group name, this is the name of the target group, or you can also give it as WebTG, whatever you want, you can give that. Okay, right. Or let's go with WebTG or external WebTG. Protocol. Protocol is HTTP, port is 80. Okay, port is 80. IPv4 and custom VPC, that is demo VPC. Protocol version HTTP. Health check path is protocol is HTTP again. And health check path, let it be / only. And then click on next. Click on next. Now here we need to include the web tier instance. Do we need to include the app tier instance? No, app tier instance should not be available for public. Only web instances should be available. So the instances which are there in the web tier should be available for public. So select that one and then scroll down, click on include as pending below, and then click on create target group. So with this, we have created the target group. Now what we have to do is, we need to create one load balancer. And for that load balancer, we need to attach this target group. So click on load balancers. Currently, if you see, we have only app internal load balancer. So let me click on create load balancer, create, and then I'll give the name as web ALB. Okay, web ALB or any name you can give. Let's say not web, I'll keep it as external web ALB. External web ALB, right? Is it an internet facing or internal one? It's an internet facing. Why? Because anybody should access. Okay, the traffic should be routed to different availability zones, right? So that's why I'm giving it as internet facing. It need not be there in the internal. That's why I call it as external load balancer. Load balancer type is IPv4, IP address, and network. So I'm going to keep it in the custom network, demo VPC. That's the custom network which we have created. And here mappings. So let me select both 1A, 1B. Now, which is the subnet group that I want to attach here? Public one subnet group. Okay, public one. So let me select that one, public one subnet group, and here also public two subnet group. Okay, public one and public two subnet group. Remember these ones. These two are very, very important again when you are attaching the subnet groups, right? And then public one AP-south-1A, public two AP-south-1B, right? And then sub security groups. Do we need to go with the default security groups? It's not required. Let us go with custom security groups. We have created our own security group, right? So let's select web ALB security group. Web ALB security group. So this is what we have created, right? While creating the security groups. And then listeners and routings. So let it be HTTP. Okay, listeners and routings, let it be HTTP protocol. Port is 80. And what is our target group? We have created the target group, right? External web TG. External web TG. So select this one, external web TG as the target group. And then click on create a load balancer. Right? Click on create load balancer. With this, we have created the load balancer. But now we can access the application using the DNS name of the load balancer. We can access the application using the DNS name of the load balancer. But in real time, are we going to access the application? Are we going to give access to the application using the DNS name? It's not required. Okay, we should not give that. But again, let's see what will happen if you give the DNS name to the end users. Let's say I'm opening a new tab and I'm pasting the DNS of external load balancer. You see what is happening. I'm unable to reach to the website. I'm unable to reach to the website. Now, in order to fix this one, what we will do is we will create the certificate using certificate manager service in AWS. Okay, in AWS, we have a service called certificate manager. But again, are we going to do all these things in the real time, like giving the DNS name of the load balancer to the end users? Are we going to do that? We should not do. So what we need to do, we need to route the traffic to the custom domain. So how will you route the traffic to the custom domain? This DNS name, whichever is there for your load balancer. Okay, let me go for that. Where is that? This DNS name, which is there for the load balancer, that DNS, you have to share it to the end users. But is it recommended? It's not recommended. So what we have to do, we'll map this DNS name to the custom domain, which we are going to purchase in the Route 53. In the Route 53. So let me go back. Let me close this one. Now let's see how to work with the custom domain. So first navigate to the Route 53 service. You can see on the search bar, just type Route 53. You can see it here. Just click on that. Once when you click on that, you will be redirecting to this particular page. So click on Get Started. And here I want to register a domain. So click on select Register a domain. And if you have domains by using GoDaddy or any other third-party services, you can also transfer the domain. First, let me create the domain by using the Route 53 itself. So select Register a domain. Click on Get Started. And here you should give the domain name. So give whatever name you want. So let's say I'm giving the name as Learn with Kastro is the domain name. That's the domain name that I want. So let's verify whether we have the availability of this domain or not. So click on search. Once you click on search, it will be letting you know whether that particular domain is available or not. You can see the domain called Learn with Kastro, it is available for 1 year period. Okay, the domain called Learn with Kastro, it is available for 1 year period. So you can see what is the price also. It is 14 USD. Okay, that is somewhere around 1400 rupees or 1500 rupees it will be coming. So if you want this domain, you can click on select. If you scroll down further, you can also get other types of domains, that is .net, .org, .io, .co. Like this, there are different domains, but based upon the domain, the price will get varied per year. So this is the yearly charge. Okay, remember this one. So let me select this domain, which is for 14 USD dollars. And here, let me click on proceed to checkout. And this is my domain name. Learnwithcastro.com is my domain name, and the duration is 1 year. If you want auto renew, then you can check this one. I don't want auto renew, so I am unchecking this one. So if you check this one, what will happen? Automatically 14 US dollars will be deducted from your account. Okay, make sure you are going to turn off this one if you don't want auto renew for every 1 year. So let me uncheck this one and then click on next. And here we have to provide the information, the general information we have to provide. So let us provide the information contact type. So what is your contact type? Person. So give the first name, last name, email ID, phone number, address, country, state, city, everything you have to give, and then click on next. So I'll just fill up these details and then I'll show you how to click. I'll show you after clicking on next. Okay. So I have filled all the details and I'm going to turn on the privacy protection for all contacts of learnwithcastro.com. So click on next. Once it is done, you can see how many rupees it is you are going to pay. So once you review everything and then click on submit. Once you click on submit, just accept it and then click on submit. Now you can see it is in the registering process. You can see the request to register domain is in the process, is in progress. You will receive a registration status email for each domain. Okay, this is the domain which we have seen, right? So let us check the status of it. So click on check status. Now you can see the status is in progress. Now what you have to do is you have to go to your email ID. Once you get the email, this is how it will be there. So you can see under registered domains, this is the domain that is that I have registered just some time back. Now, once this domain is available, then we can integrate this particular domain with any of the load balancer DNS, and we can also work with the other features that are available in the Route 53. And this is how you can register the domains using Route 53 concept. Now, click on the hosted zones. If you see in the left side, you will see an option called hosted zones. And once you click on hosted zones, you will see the domain that you have registered. Now click on the open this hosted zone. And here we need to create a record. Okay, we need to create a record. Now, while creating the records, we have different types of records that we have. So I'm not going into the details of what each record means because that is not the intention of this video. So let us create a record. So click on create record. Now the record types, as I was mentioning, we have different types of records. So let me go with A type record, which is going to divert the traffic or which is going to route the traffic to all IPv4 addresses, and it is also going to utilize some of the AWS services as well. So I'm going to select the record type as A and record name. So record name here, let it be as it is because I want to access my website with this one, with this domain. So let me go with this one itself. So record name, let it be blank. Alias, if you want to enable it, you can enable it, but it's better to enable the alias because it allows us where to route the traffic. Okay, where to route the traffic. So, and here route traffic to where we need to route the traffic. We need to route the traffic to load balancer. Okay, we need to route the traffic to load balancer. So here you can see alias to application and classic load balancer. If you have a network load balancer also, we can do that. But as a part of this video, we are working with application load balancer. So separately, you cannot select ALB. So we have a combination like application load balancer and the classic load balancer. So I'm just selecting alias to application and the classic load balancer. Now region, in which region we have the resources? We have the resources in the Mumbai region. Okay, we have the resources in the Mumbai region. So let me select the region as Mumbai. Okay, Asia Pacific. And load balancer. Do we have the load balancer? Yes, we do have the load balancer. So what is the load balancer that we have? We have the load balancer, that is external web load balancer and internal app load balancer also. So let us not bother about this one for time being. And here you can see routing policy. So the routing policies also, we have different routing policies. So let me go with a simple routing policy. And now let's work with the load balancer type. So to which load balancer we need to route the traffic? We need to route the traffic to external web load balancer. So I'm just selecting external web ALB, right? External web ALB. That's it. And if you want to have any kind of health, target health, you can enable this one. If you don't want, you can disable the toggle bar. So let me have it. That doesn't matter. That doesn't make a big difference here. So let me click on create records. So with this, you can see the record is getting created. Okay, the record is getting created. You can see the third record which we have just created. The record type is A. By default, you will be getting these two records whenever you create the domain or whenever you register the domain. Okay, right. Once you create the record, what we need to do is instead of load balancer DNS name, we can use the domain name. What is my domain name? Learnwithcastro.com is my domain name. Okay, is my domain name. But when we copy and paste the domain name in new browser, are we able to see the website? No, it was not able to see the website. So what we need to do is we need to fix that error. Okay, we need to fix that error. So how will you fix that error? In order to fix that error, we have a service called Certificate Manager in AWS. We have a service called Certificate Manager. So let me open the Certificate Manager in a new tab. And here, what we need to do is we need to create a certificate. So for that, first let us request a certificate. So click on request a certificate. And here, request a public certificate. We want a public certificate only. So request a public certificate. So click on next. Click on next. And here, fully qualified domain name. Okay, fully qualified domain name. So what is the domain name that I have purchased? So give that domain name. So learnwithcastro.com. That's the fully qualified domain name which I have registered. Okay, which I have registered. And then DNS validation is required. Okay, DNS validation is required. It is going to validate the domain name system of the load balancer. Okay, and then key algorithm, let it be RSA 2048 and click on request. Okay, click on request. So now certificate has been requested. Okay, certificate has been requested. You can see the status as a pending validation. Pending validation. Now scroll down to domains. Okay, scroll down to domains. Now here what we need to do is we need to create a record in Route 53. Okay, we need to create a record in Route 53. So click on create records in Route 53. And here what we need to do is check the domain. This is the domain that I have purchased, right? Check the domain and then click on create records. Click on create records. That's it. Now, after some time, what will happen is you can see here successfully created DNS record. Now, currently, what is the status? Pending validation. Okay, you will see after some time, you will see the status as a certificate issued. Okay, you'll see the status as issued. Okay, let us verify that. Let me just reload it to just check the status change it to pending to issued. Now, you can see the certificate has been issued. So this is the certificate. Now, this certificate we will be adding to the external web load balancer. Okay, whatever certificate that we have created, this certificate will add to the external load balancer. So how will you add this certificate to the external load balancer? So for that, what we need to do is first let us go to the load balancers tab. Okay, in EC2, let us go to the load balancers tab. Yeah, so this is the load balancers. So let me go to the load balancers here. Now, open the external load balancer. So we have created two load balancers, right? Internal and external. So click on external web load balancer. And in the web load balancer, if you scroll down, you can see listeners and rules. So click on add listener. Click on add listener. And here protocol is 80. Protocol is HTTPS protocol. And port is 443. That's a default port. And the target groups, forward to target groups. Which target group we have for web servers or for web tier? We have WebTG. Okay, we have WebTG. So select the external WebTG. Okay, external WebTG. Right. I'm forwarding that to WebTG. And then certificate source. If you scroll down further, you can see let all these things be as it is. Certificate source. From where I have certificate? From the ACM. That's the service that is available in AWS. ACM. Okay. And here select the certificate. So click on drop down. You can see this is the certificate that I have registered. So click on this certificate. Once you select the certificate, okay, once you select the certificate, scroll down and then click on add. Click on add. Now we have successfully created the listener also. Now we have successfully created the listener also. Now what we have to do is whatever the domain name that is there. Okay, now whatever the domain name that is there. What is our domain name? Learnwithcastro.com. This is my domain name. Now paste this domain in the browser. You will be able to see the website. You will be able to see the website. Right. So let us do that. So now you can see I have added the security group rule. Okay, I have added the target groups and I have made sure this is done. But make sure if you have not opened the port number 443 at the security group level, you will be getting the error. So how will you open the port number 443 at the security group level? Go to the security groups and here you have the web ALB SG, right? This is the security group which we have created. Earlier, what we have done is we have not added the security group, that is port range 443. Make sure you are going to add this port number in order to access the website by using the learnwithcastro.com website or learnwithcastro.com domain. So you can see I have added this domain just now. So that is the reason why we will be able to see the application. So let us access the application in some time. But this is the most important thing that you have to remember. Once you add the listeners and rule, so what will you do? So click on add listener, and then you will be going with the protocol. Protocol is HTTPS protocol, and then you are going to give the port number. So port number is 443. That's the port number that you have to give. Since I already gave, it will show an error message. Okay, make sure of that. So make sure to open that port number 443 here, and then forward to target group. So what is our target group? Our target group is external web load balancer, and then from ACM, certificate source is ACM, and then select this one, and then click on add. Once you click on add, okay, once you click on add, the listener will get added. So I'm clicking on cancel because I have already done that. Once you add that, here you will get an error message if you don't open the port number 443. So how will you open port number 443? For that, just go to web ALB security group. This is the security group which we have created. For that security group, click on edit inbound rules and then add this rule. So you can see HTTPS protocol I have opened, and TCP is the protocol, HTTPS is the type, port is 443, and source I have kept it as anywhere because anybody across the globe should access my application. So that's the thing that I have done. And then click on save rules. Make sure to open this port at security group level. That is most important. Since I have already opened, I'm going to click cancel. Now let us access the website by using this particular domain. So let me go here. So paste it, learnwithkastro.com. Now press enter. You should be able to see the website. Are we able to see the website or not? By using which one? By using the custom domain. Okay, by using the custom domain, I'm still able to access the application. Now, even if you want to enter the data, go to DB demo and then add the data also. Suppose, let's say I want to add a new data. Let's say I'll give the price as 350 rupees and I'm going to give the book name as artificial intelligence. Any name you can give. What doesn't matter, you should give only this name. Just give some name for the for this thing. Okay, once this is done, then click on add. Now you can see the application is still up and running. Okay, the application is working for the end user. Right. So this is how you can work with the custom domain. This is pure real-time work. So what we have done is we are not accessing the application using the public IP of the instance or with the domain name, the load balancer domain name, DNS name. How we are accessing? We are accessing the application using the custom domain. Okay, using the custom domain. That is what we are doing here. Learnwithkastro.com. This is my custom domain. Right. So now this is all about the three-tier architecture. So far, whatever we have done, everything is done. Now, let's say I want a high availability for my EC2 instance. If you remember the architecture, whatever we have created one EC2 instance for web tier, one EC2 instance for app tier, and database instance. All these instances we have created in which availability zone? Only one availability zone. But I need my application to have the high availability and fault tolerant. So for that, what you need to give? I need to run the application in multiple availability zones. Okay, I need to run the application in multiple availability zones. That's called as high availability. Now for that, what we have to do is we need to create the autoscaling group. Okay, we need to create the autoscaling group. So let's create the autoscaling group for high availability. So here we are going to add one autoscaling group for the app tier instances, and we are going to add another autoscaling group for the web tier instances as well. Okay, so let's first add the autoscaling group for app tier instances, and then we will do the same thing for web tier instances as well. So let me go here. The application, you can see the application is still running with my custom domain name. The application is also running by using the public IP address as well. But do we need this one? No, we are not going to give this one to the end user. So I'm just going to close it. So let us access the application by using the custom domain itself. Right. So now what we need to do is we need to create the autoscaling group. Okay, we need to create the autoscaling group. But before creating the autoscaling group, first we need to create an AMI, that is Amazon Machine Image, using app tier instance and also the web tier instance. So let me go to the instances. So let me select the app tier instance. Okay, let me select the app tier instance. Go to actions. You can see images and templates. Click on create image. Click on create image. So I'll give the image name as app tier AMI. And giving the image as image name as app tier AMI. Description is completely optional. If you want, you can give. So let me give it here. Reboot instance, if you want, you can give, otherwise you don't need to reboot the instance as well. And here you can see the image snapshots and all those things. And let's click on create image. So with this, what we have done, we have created the AMI for which instance? App tier instance. Now let us do the same thing for web tier instance also. Okay, web tier instance also. Before creating the auto scaling group, these are the fundamental things that we need to do. Okay, let me go to the images and templates, create image. And here what we are going to do is we are going to give the image name. Let's say I'll give the image name as web tier AMI. Okay, web tier AMI or web layer AMI, anything you can give. So let me copy this one and give it in the description. I don't want to reboot the instance, and let me click on create image. So the image got created. Now let's create a launch template. Okay, let's create a launch template by using the custom images which we have created. We have created AMIs, right? By using those AMIs, let us create a launch template. So how will you create a launch template? Just in the left bar, you can see launch templates. So click on create launch template. Okay, let me give the launch template name. First, I'll create the launch template for app tier, and then we will see it for web tier also. So app tier AMI, app tier LT. LT represents launch template. Template version description. You can give anything, or let me go with the same thing, or you can give it as version 1.1, version 1.2, version 1, whatever you want. And then auto scaling guidance, it's not required. Okay, it's not required. If you want, you can provide it also. Okay, let us provide it as well. And here, I am going to use my AMIs, custom AMIs we have, right? We have just created for app tier and web tier. So select my AMIs. And here, for which one we are creating the launch template app tier. So select the app tier AMI. Okay, select the app tier AMI. And then instance type, let it be t2.micro. So let us have the AMI and instance type. Where is that? Okay, I think it is not coming here. So let it be as it is, because in that AMI, I have included the instance type. Okay, right. Now, app tier AMI, we have selected key pair. If you want to go with key pair, you can go. Otherwise, you can select the without key pair also, you can select. Okay, so let me instance type, let me go with, let me select that one, t2.micro here. It is coming here. So let me select t2.micro here. Once you select the instance type, key pair, if you want to go, you can select the existing key pair. Otherwise, you can go with don't include in launch template also. That is also fine. That's not a problem. Okay, and then network settings, this is the most important one again. So network settings, do we need to include the subnet in the network settings? If you want, you can include, otherwise it's not required. So let me go with don't include in launch template. And then security group, which security group we need? We need app tier security group, or app SG we have created, right? So this is the security group that I want to attach. And then storage volumes, let it be the default one. Advanced details. Okay, advanced details. So this is where we need to attach the IAM role. So if you remember from the beginning, whatever the instances that I am creating, for all those instances, I am attaching the IAM role. Only then you will be able to connect to the instances, right? Once you select the IAM role, okay, now we can create the launch template. So let me click on create launch template. Now let us also create auto scaling group using this launch template. Okay, by using this app tier LT, let us create an auto scaling group. So how will you create an auto scaling group? So in the left pane, if you scroll down, you can see an option called auto scaling groups. Now in the auto scaling group, let me click on create auto scaling group. Okay, and then here I'll give the auto scaling group name. Let's say app tier ASG auto scaling group. Okay, app tier ASG, and then launch template. Which launch template we are going to use? App tier LT. And version, let it go with the default version, and click on next. Okay, click on next. And VPC we have to select. Network is demo VPC. That is our custom VPC. Availability zones. In which availability zones we need? We need 1A and 1B. App 1A, app 1B. Okay, you can see that app 1A and app 1B. Let us select that app 2 also. Yeah, app 1 and app 2 subnets. Right, that is done. Why I am selecting 2 availability zones? Because for our network, we need high availability for our application. So that's why I'm selecting both availability zones. And then availability zone distribution, let it be balanced best effort. And then click on next. Click on next. Right. Now we need to go with the load balancer. Do we have a load balancer? Yes. So select attach to existing load balancer. Choose from your load balancer target groups. Okay. Choose from your load balancer target groups. So what is our target group? we have created, right, app internal TG. Okay, we have created app internal TG. Select that one. And VPC lattice, it's not required, so let it be as it is. If you want to enable application recovery controller, you can enable that. Otherwise, it's not required. You can also check the elastic load balancer health checks also, and its time period as well. That's again up to your requirement. So let me click on the next. And here we need to give the auto scaling group. So let's say I'll give the desired capacity as 2, minimum 2 instances I need, and maximum 2 instances I need. If you want, you can give 4 also. So when you give 4, what will happen? Based upon the traffic, a maximum of 4 instances will get launched. Okay, 4 instances will get launched. You can change this one at any given point of time. Auto scaling policies. So I don't need any kind of auto scaling policies. Okay, I don't need any kind of auto scaling policies. So scroll down and then click on next. Next, I don't want any kind of notifications. If you want, you can configure with the SNS, that is simple notification service. Tags, if you want, you can provide. So let's say I'll provide the tag as, since we are working with web tier, so I'll give it as name and web tier. Web tier I'm keeping. Okay, web tier VM. I'm just keeping in this way. Now remember, we haven't created, I'll keep it as VMs, web tier VMs. We haven't created any instances with this name. Now, as soon as I create the auto scaling group, 2 instances will get created. Why 2 instances will get created? Because I have given the desired capacity as 2. Okay, you can see updating. So let me go to the EC2 service. Okay, let me go to the EC2 service. In the instances, you can see 2 instances will have got created. Can you see that? Web tier VMs, web tier VMs. This instance we have created previously itself. Okay, this one. But these are the ones which got created. You can see they are initializing it. Okay, these are the ones that got created because of the auto scaling group. Okay, now by using the auto scaling group, these 2 additional instances has got created, web tier VMs, both web tier VMs. Now, if you want to work with multiple parameters, you can also work with this way. This is called as providing high availability to your instance. Do you need to provide the auto scaling group for app tier also? Yes, if it is required, you can provide that also. Okay, if it is required, you can provide that also. Even though if you provide, it doesn't make the application to go down. So application will be keep on running itself. Okay, application will be keep on running itself. So like this, you can also create a launch template for app tier VMs. App tier. You have created an image from app tier instance, right? By using that image, you can create a launch template, and by using that launch template, you can create the auto scaling group. As soon as you create the auto scaling group, the application will have the high availability. Okay, the application will have the high availability. So this is called as high availability for the application. Now, if you want to implement high level security, okay, if you want to, this one you can do. So the app tier instance related thing, security group, auto scaling group, those things you can practice when you are working out. Okay, currently I'm just showing for web tier VMs only. You can practice for app tier also when you are practicing. Now, this is about the full length. Now, let's say I want to add extra level of security to my EC2 instances, to my app tier and to my web tier. You can still customize that. If you remember, for all the security groups which we have created, I have opened the VPC CADR range. Okay, the VPC CADR I have opened. If you see here, so if you select any security group, let's say I'll select Web ALB SG, we have opened the complete, not web one. Let us go with the app itself. So app security group or app SG. So here you can see I have opened it for a complete VPC network. That means those who are trying to access from this network, they'll be able to access the application. Okay. Now, let's say I don't want anybody, I don't want everyone who is there in this network to access the application. Okay, I don't want everyone, whoever is there in this network, to access the application. So we can provide high level security also. Okay, we can provide high level security also. So how we are going to provide? Suppose let's say for the DB instance security group, I have given the complete VPC CADR range. Even if you see the DB instance security group also, let me give that. So this is the security group. And here you see complete VPC range I have given. So I don't want in this way. I don't want in this way. So what I'll do, I'll customize it. So suppose let's say I'll go with the DB instance security group first, RDS SG. So click on edit inbound rules. Okay, click on edit inbound rules, add rule. Let's say I'll add a rule for MySQL Aurora. So I'll give it as MySQL Aurora. Okay. Earlier I have opened for entire VPC range. Now I'm not doing that. Okay. I'm not going to do that. So TCP is the protocol. Port range is 3306 and source. Okay. Source. So here what I'll give is I'll give security group. We have created the security groups, right? That security group we can attach. So this is a database security group. Okay. This is a database security group. So let's go with database security group. Okay, my application should run on which security group? App SG. So let me go with App SG here. If you delete it also, nothing will happen. Your application will be still running. So let us verify that also. So I'm just going here. I'm just reloading it here. You can see I'm still able to access the application. You give some entry here and let's say ML I'll give. You can see the end user is still able to access the application. So that's how you can provide high level security to your instances onto your VPC network. This is one thing for RDS-SG. Similarly, you can also give the security group. I mean, you can configure the security group for app SG also. Let us do that as well. So app SG, let us see that. Yeah. For app SG also, if you remember, we have opened for entire VPC range. So I don't want to open it for entire VPC range. Only for security group, I want to open a specific security group. So I have just opened app SG, click on add rule. So for add rule, what I'll do is I'll go with custom TCP, protocol is TCP, and port range, I'll give it as 4000 because this is where my Node.js application is running. So source, I'll give it as custom, and here also I'll give it as SG. So which security group I have to add? Internal load balancer security group. Okay, internal load balancer security group. Okay, for application, how the traffic should come through the internal load balancer security group. So I'm selecting internal ALB SG. Okay, internal ALB SG. If you want to delete, you can delete it. Still, the application won't get affected. Let us cross verify once again that. So I'm just reloading it. You can see the application is still available. Let's say I'll give some entry. I'll give it as AI and then click on add. You can see the application is still up and running. This is for app security group. Similarly, we can also do the same thing for web security groups as well. Okay, web security group. So if you open web security group, okay, web security group. So here, what I have done is I have opened the traffic to the entire security group. I mean, the entire VPC CIDR range. So I don't want in that way. I want to customize. Yes, we can do that. So let's do that also. So click on add rule, custom TCP, port number is port number is 4000. Okay, port number is 4000 and source, let it be custom, and here I'll give it a security group. So which security group I want for web tier? So we have created a web ALB SG, right? So all the traffic should come from load balancer only. So for load balancer, we have created a separate security group. So just give web ALB SG. That's it. Web ALB SG. So if you want, you can delete this one. Still the application won't get affected. Still the application won't get affected. Even if you delete this also, the application won't get affected. Okay, you can delete this one, you can delete this one. The application won't get affected. That's for sure. Let me click on save rules. Let me reload the page. You can still see the application that is up and running. Let's say I want to delete everything. So you can see there is a button called delete. Every entry will get deleted. Can I say that application is up and running now? Yes. So this is how you can tighten your security also for your EC2 instances and also the layers, not just the EC2 instances, for web layer, app layer, and the database layer. So this is all about the three-tier architecture at a full scale, including the Route 53. Okay, including the Route 53. So now what we need to do is we need to clean up the resources. So once your practice is done, don't keep the resources as it is, because if you keep the resources as it is, you'll be charged for that. So you have to clean up the resources. So I have given a step-by-step documentation for cleaning up the resources also. Let me show you that. You can see delete everything once it's done. So first delete the auto scaling group. Why we need to delete the auto scaling group? Because by using this only, the instance will get created automatically. So if you delete this one, that will be good. Otherwise, if you directly go to the EC2 instances, and if you try to delete these ones, the instances will get deleted. But based upon the configuration in auto scaling group, automatically the new instances will get created. So first delete the auto scaling group. So I'm just deleting the auto scaling group. You just have to follow the documentation properly so that everything will be clear for you. And then delete both the load balancers. So we have created load balancers, right? So let us delete the load balancers also. So we have just select both the load balancers, action, and then click on delete load balancer. So just confirm them to delete. So I'm deleting the load balancer as well. Next, delete the target groups also. So we have created a couple of target groups, right? For app internal and external web. So delete both of them, both of the target groups also. So actions, delete, and then click on S delete. So the target groups has also got deleted. Once the target groups got deleted, AMIs, we have created AMIs, right? Amazon Machine Images. So let's delete the AMI. So we have created two AMIs, if you remember, okay, for web instance and app instance. So let me delete both of them. So first you have to deregister them. So let me deregister. So that's done. Once that is done, then you have to delete the snapshots. By default, whenever you take the AMI, snapshots will get created. Okay, snapshots will get created. So you have to delete the snapshots also. You can see these are the snapshots that got created. So delete snapshot. So just confirm the deletion. So just delete it. So once the snapshots are deleted, then you can delete the database as well. Okay, you can delete the database. So let me go to the RDS service and delete the database. So let's wait here. So in the RDS, just go to the databases. In the databases, make sure to delete the database. Okay, I'm just selecting this one, actions, and then delete. So I don't want to create any snapshots. So just acknowledge it and then type delete me here. Okay, type delete me so that you can delete the database also. Can you delete the subnet groups? Yes, you can delete the subnet groups also. Okay, so just delete it and then subnet groups will also get deleted. Once that is done, you can delete the S3 bucket and then you can delete the certificate also, which you have created. So let me go to the certificate manager, and then delete the SSL certificate that we have created. So list the certificates. So we have the certificate, right? So just delete the certificate. That is also no longer required for us. So delete it. And once that is done, just then delete the Route 53 record, because Route 53 is also something that we have utilized. So let me go to Route 53. So let me go here, Route 53. Before Route 53, let me also delete the bucket as well. So before deleting the bucket, first you have to empty the bucket. Directly you cannot delete the bucket. So first empty the bucket. Once after you emptied the bucket, then you can delete the bucket. So empty bucket only you cannot delete. I mean, you can delete. If the bucket is consists of something else, you cannot delete. If the bucket consists of objects, you cannot delete that bucket. So first you have to delete the objects that are there in the bucket, and then you can delete the bucket. Right? I have deleted the bucket also. Now let's delete the record, Route 53 records. So if you go here, you can see there are some records that we have created. So let's go to records, policy records, and make sure to delete the records also. After that, you can delete the NAT gateway also. So let me go to the NAT gateway. Okay, it's not required for us as of now. So let me go to VPC and delete the NAT gateway. Okay, so certificate, okay, it got deleted. So let's go to the VPC and delete the NAT gateway. NAT gateway. So this is the NAT gateway. So delete this also, so that to avoid the billing. And for NAT gateway, you will have the elastic IPs also. So elastic IP also you have to delete. So let us go with elastic IPs. In the left pane, you can see the option called elastic IPs. So let's verify where exactly it is. So you can see elastic IPs and click on select this one, and then you cannot delete it. You have to release elastic IPs. Okay, you can release the elastic IPs, cannot be released because there is a VPC that is running in the backend. So let us delete the VPC first. Okay, let us go and delete the VPC. So select the VPC, actions, delete VPC, and unable to delete because one of the following. Okay, the instances are still up and running. So the VP, let's delete the instances also. I mean, let's terminate the web tier instance and app tier instance as well. So I have just selected both of these instances, and then let me try to terminate both of them at the same time. So I'm just terminating the instances as well. Once the instances are terminated, then network interfaces will be there. The NAT gateway that we have already deleted, you can see it is in the deleting process. Once everything is done, then you can delete the VPC. Once you delete the VPC, subnets, all those things will get deleted. Okay, subnets and all other things will get deleted. So let me select this one and try it once again. Unable to delete because it is still, it is in the available status. It is still has to delete the thing. So let us wait till it get deleted. So network interfaces also you have to delete. ENIs will call elastic network interfaces. So select both of them and then delete the network interfaces as well. So this is the complete three-tier architecture that you can implement in the real-time scenarios. So I know this video is little lengthy and you have to have some patience to listen to the entire video, and you have to know how to clean up the resources and what resources has to be cleaned up, what is the flow that you have to clean up the resources, everything you should know. So make sure to watch this video and make sure to implement it, practice it, so that you'll be understanding how the things are working in the real-time scenarios. I would, from my end, I have one small request. Once after you complete doing the deployment, you can post it on LinkedIn by tagging me, saying that this particular resource has been created from by using the resource or by using the web YouTube link which I'm going to upload now. So it would be a great help for me, and it will be a boost also for me to create further projects or further real-time projects. We'll be creating a couple of other projects in the upcoming days. The next projects that we are going to work is on Netflix project, and we also have a couple of other projects in pipeline. So all those projects will be uploaded time by time. So that is all from my end for this video. Thank you all. Thank you once again.